What's going on, everybody? It's your boy PTK Blam back in the building with another episode of the Shop Podcast. How are all you beautiful people in the chat doing this awesome weekend, man? Appreciate seeing all you guys down in chat. Once again, if you're new here, hit the like button, subscribe as well. We appreciate the consistent support, seeing all the familiar faces in chat. Once again, on your way in, hit the like button. Let everybody know the Shop Podcast is live. As you guys can see, we are short one amigo, but he will be here as quickly as possible. Shout out to Pong, so he'll be here shortly. But once again, we're gonna get things started. We got a lot to talk about this week. I hope you guys are having a phenomenal weekend. And if it's your first time here at the Shop Podcast, come in, take your shoes off, kick your feet up. This is where you're gonna get all of that good gaming talk. So once again, retweet the link, hit the like button, subscribe if you are new here. But let me go ahead. I've been talking too much already. We got a phenomenal guest, another familiar face. So I had to call an audible at the last minute. You guys know how this podcasting thing go. Sometimes things don't work out. So shout out to Addict, Lord Addict from ILP. He was originally supposed to be on the podcast today, but something came up last minute. So hope everything is well with him. Hopefully he's having a beautiful day. And shout out to everybody over at ILP. You guys go, support them as well. But we got a phenomenal guest here. Once again, every time I throw up the back signal, Asante, you come every single time, 100% of the time. But shout out to you, Asante. Let everybody know what you got going on, brother.
Like Michael Keaton, I was sitting in the lab just kind of reading the book, and then I saw the symbol, and I had to come and represent. No, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing real good. I appreciate being asked to be on the show. Whatever you call it, I can do it. Of course, I'll be here. No, it's been a fun week. A lot of podcasting, a lot of games playing. So it's fun for me. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. And once again, you guys know Asante. He's an extended part of the extended family here at the Shop Podcast, along such as the likes of FSP. Shout out to Mav. Shout out to Caitlin. I'm sure I'll see them pop up here in chat later on. But shout out to you and Everborn Saga, Mister Sega himself. How's he been, by the way? How's he been? He been good.
He's good, man. He's good. He these days he drinks deep of ABK documents. So
man. Every time I see him post on Twitter, it's him breaking down a new piece of a new email, a new something that we got from ABK.
He puts on the bifocals. He sits in a corner and he really drinks deep of said documents. So we have an ABK block on our show these days just to make sure that he can break down all the knowledge for those who want to know it. Oh, and Mr. Pong Soul's in the house. Now it's a party. What's going on?
Oh, man? Yeah. Round in third base, man. Always sliding in home plate. What's up, Pong? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, brothers. What's going on? Are we in intro still? Or
yeah, we in intros, man. Go ahead. Take it away, brother.
Oh, man. Sorry for a little bit late start. Had an unexpected trip up to the store before they closed tonight. So anyways, I'm glad to be here, and it's awesome that we have Kay Asante filling in for Lord Addict tonight. I hope Lord Addict's going good, and I hope everything's all right over there. But great to have Kay Asante, of course, as always, dropping on in here. I can't wait to hear him. I actually got to listen to him and Everborn live today.
Yeah, I saw you on the show today.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. That's a rare occurrance. So
Indeed it is. Yes.
But yeah,
it was good to see you. Yep.
Yeah, it was. It was great to pop in there and be able to lurk and listen. So happy to be here. What a week. Not a big news week by any stretch of the imagination, but big beta weekend is what I've been calling it, with Exo Primal. Fantastic first impressions from that game. Really have had a blast with it. Up to 5 players on your team. They got something there. And now whether or not it's going to have legs, well, that's going to be up to Capcom and what they do with it. But had a lot of fun with Exo Primal. But let me tell you something. This year is crazy. We talked about this time and time again about 2023 being potentially one of the greatest years of all time for video games. And if the first half is any indication, the first 3 months are any indication. Quarter. Yeah, the first quarter here is any indication, because right now I'm playing the beta of what probably will be and probably should be, unless they really screw it up. And again, there's a lot between here and June, but Diablo 4 should be up for Game of the Year.
What I tell you, Asante? What I tell you?
This is no joke. This is my second most anticipated game of the year. Everybody knows that Starfield's number 1, of course. And I was worried that Starfield was going to come out and it was going to interfere with Diablo, and I was going to have to choose. And obviously, I'd choose Starfield, and I wasn't going to get around to playing Diablo for a while. But now that's all cleaned up, right? So hopping into this beta, let me tell you something. This supersedes all expectations that I even had for Blizzard and what they were going to do with this, getting back to this game after what it's been, 11 years, 12 years now, coming up, maybe even 13 at this point. So they've listened to all the feedback that they got during the Diablo 3 time, and they have taken that to heart. And whatever they were cooking up over there, maybe they made a deal themselves with Lilith to get this game looking and playing the way it is right now. But this is probably, again, this supersedes all my expectations. I can't imagine what else I'd want from a Diablo game. That addictive loop is all there. They obviously looked at Path of Exile, which I brought up on this show, and that influenced where they took Diablo. But they also went back to their roots with Diablo 2, as everybody asked them to, and they kept the same kind of quality of life fan favorites from Diablo 3. You roll that all in, and you come up with a masterful story already. Like, I'm telling you, the opening cinematic and then one of the really early cutscenes that you get to inside of a church blew me away with what Blizzard is doing over there for this game. This has been worth the wait, folks. And I'm telling you that unless they really screw things up, and they can, and again, it's an action RPG. It's end game is the main part of these. But if they don't, this game is going to be and should be in that conversation because I'm already addicted. I feel like playing this beta, I've already got my money's worth out of pre-order, right? That's how good this is. I'm level 23. I'm 2 away from already max cap on my first character on Rogue. Never thought I'd be hitting that. I thought it was going to take me 2 weekends to get up there. I can't stop playing, and that says a lot. So yeah, just having a blast. Sorry it take a little bit longer, but
No,
Diablo 4 is absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing.
And I knew that was coming. That's why I let you cook. Sometimes we gotta back up and let you cook because I knew that was coming. So we're gonna get into that for sure. Chat, once again, if you've been playing Diablo for the beta, let us know in chat how you feel about it. Is it awesome? Is it amazing? Give us your impression of the game thus far, man. But shout out to you, Pong. Shout out to Asante for hanging out with us as well, man. It's gonna be a phenomenal show once again. Familiar faces. I love you guys. You guys are awesome. New faces. Subscribe if you're enjoying the podcast, man. We do this every single week. This is the place to be if you want to talk gaming every single Saturday evening, man. Come hang out with us, kick your feet up. We have a good time here. And last but not least, Mr. Fuzzy Belvedere. How you been, brother?
Well, I've been doing good. Glad to be here with you guys. Glad we got K Asante tonight. And man, just light on gaming news, kind of, but man, so many games in the works and in beta form, and talking about releases for 2024 with a set of Corsa on the horizon. We got Horizon Rally stuff coming later this month. Yeah, this is a pretty good year so far. So, man, can't wait to get into these topics. Yeah, let's do this.
Let's get into it, man. Shout out to everybody in chat once again. Shown 2 Mod of the Year, Alvin, Zinc, Blue, Ashtray, everybody hanging out. What's up, General Spartan? Just dropping in. Appreciate you guys, man. We got a lot to talk about once again. You guys know what we're cooking up. We're going to start it off with the poll of the week. Once again, if you're not familiar with that, poll I throw up on my Twitter every single Monday. So if you're not following me, all of that is down in the description. And then we talk about it here every single Saturday at the Shop Podcast. So we had a real good one. Shout out to the almost 500 people who voted on the poll, man. Poll's getting like bigger and bigger every week. I appreciate the engagement. You guys are awesome. So look for that every single Monday on my Twitter feed. Sometimes Tuesdays. Every now and then I do forget, so I do apologize, but I do my best to make sure I'm consistent with that. But this week's poll of the week, man, we had kind of a versus poll of the week this week. So it was with the huge success of Hogwarts Legacy and Star Wars Jedi Survivor releasing soon, which will be the bigger success by the end of the year. So I kind of wanted to throw this out there. It's something we've talked about loosely here on the show. We've kind of touched on it, but we haven't really dived in on it. So I want to make sure I got everybody's opinion. And once again, chat, this is for you guys as well. So we had Hogwarts Legacy, Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Hogwarts Legacy, overwhelming favorite. 78% said Hogwarts Legacy is going to be the bigger game. So I want to get into this. I don't necessarily agree, but we'll dive in here first. We're going to start with you, Asante. We're going to say we had a lot of opinions on the poll. We had a lot of different opinions. people saying there was one or two very consistent reason why, but we'll start with you, man. Which one are you? Star Wars Jedi Survivor or Hogwarts Legacy?
Now, I will say that my answer is not about the substance of the game, but by the surprise that it brings to the consumer base. And with that in mind, it will be Hogwarts for me, because as great as Jedi Survivor is, and it's gonna be great, much like Ragnarok was great to the original God of War. You know what to expect now, right? It's a defined property. It you know where it's going to go. It could get better from there, of course, and it will get better from there, but you know what to expect when you jump in. Hogwarts threw a lot of people for a loop, so that's where the excitement will live, in my opinion.
Okay, and that makes a lot of sense. Like you said, there was no blueprint. We didn't really have a good Hogwarts game. And like I said, this is one of those games where you don't really know what you want out of that game until you get a game like Hogwarts Legacy, right?
Yep.
You don't know,
Easy,
I didn't
easy to fail, hard to succeed, and they really,
exactly,
really succeeded.
exactly. And then obviously, excluding the controversy, I do agree with it on that standpoint. The one saving grace, I just believe that if they nail Star Wars, just on the strength of the IP alone, that it can be extremely competitive. It'll be closer than a lot of people think. Because I think that and I said this about Hogwarts Legacy. Go back and check the receipts. You can go back in the old videos that I thought when I saw Hogwarts that if it was 85% of what I thought it was going to be, it was going to be massive. And I feel the same exact way about Star Wars Jedi Survivor. On top of it already being I guess you could argue which IP is like the brand is bigger overall. I would argue Star Wars is probably
Star Wars is
a more
way more
recognizable.
massive.
Yeah,
Yes.
way more massive. I think that's that's my only hang up is if the game is that goddamn good. Like if it's like a 9.5 and we see that across the board, then there's a really, really good potential that it will just take off regardless of us already having expectations. So I don't know where you're at on that, Asante.
Sure. No, I do feel you on that. The only piece of the puzzle where I would not push back, but the only caveat I would have to that is the first one was damn good. Like it was really good.
It was really good. Yeah.
It was not flawed. The only flaw I can think of was that crazy ass map that they put in that thing. But besides the map, there was absolutely nothing in that game where you can point and have a flaw against. And if you're a Star Wars fan, that is catnip to you. That game was perfection, right? Yeah. And it did great numbers, right? But it could also be that it got short shrift at the Keeleys because of the time it was released.
That's true. Yep.
It kind of did what it did, and it did it very well, and it didn't have legs after that, right?
Yeah.
And unless they announced that Jedi Survivor now becomes this crazy big open world or some new thing that surprises people, I feel like it's a known commodity, and those who know the first one will be there day one. Like me, I'll be there day one, right? But I don't know, man. It's a known commodity, right? And because of that, people are just gonna be like, well, it's gonna be more of that or maybe better, just like Ragnarok, right? It did not kill. It's like Doom to Doom Eternal. You know what I'm saying? The second ones are always better, but they never hit as hard because people are not surprised anymore.
Got it. You can't really catch people off guard, essentially. And like you said, based on what we know about the game. So I don't know, man. I'm just holding out reservation at this game. Like sometimes a game's just good enough to overcome all of that, right? Sometimes a game just hits the right way.
And you haven't played Hogwarts, right?
No. See, like, I'm saying brother, I'm naive,
to me after
right?
you played Hogwarts.
I'm naive,
talk
right?
to me. Yes. After you played some Hogwarts, we will revisit this conversation because I think your tune might change after that one. But
all right, we'll see. Let's go ahead and throw this over to Pong, man. And once again, Pong, obviously we're fantasy baseball in this thing. Hogwarts is a huge IP. There are some obvious benefits that Hogwarts had that I can't say the same about Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and Sante did a great job of highlighting those already. So I can't really push back against those, but there's a couple areas where I think there may be an opportunity there. But where you at on this, Pong?
Well, there's always going to be an opportunity for any IP that has Star Wars attached to it, right? So there's always going to be that opportunity. But I went with Hogwarts here. I should say simply just because the accessibility factor of Hogwarts. That game is going to be a lot easier for people to get into than Jedi Survivor will be.
Yeah.
And for me, that's the difference that puts it over the top. not to mention that it's already got a freaking ridiculous lead at this point. But any game that comes out and is outselling Elden Ring, there's not going to be too many other games that come along and do it, even with the Star Wars name attached to it. Now, I'm not saying Jedi Survivor is not going to succeed. Far from it. I think it's going to be highly successful. I think it has potential to sell more than the first one did. At the end of the day, with the hype behind it, but there is going to be a group of people who have already tried Fallen Order or watched their friends play it or watched people stream it and have said to themselves, it's not for me. Whereas I think Hogwarts, anybody can jump into Hogwarts. Literally anybody can jump into Hogwarts and find something to do in that game. Even if you don't spend 80 hours in that game or 100 hours in that game, doing all the side missions, doing all that stuff. If you just spend your time flying around on the broom, practicing some magic spells, whatever the case may be, Hogwarts has just got a different flair to it. And I think that that's what puts it over the top and gives it the edge at the end of the day. So I'm going to stick with Hogwarts here. Would it shock me if Jedi Survivor came out and blew everybody away, scored in let's say the low 90s, and all of a sudden everybody had to play that game, just like everybody had to play Elden Ring? Sure. I mean, that wouldn't shock me, and I'd be like, all right, they did their thing. Zampella and his team put it together, made a game that was that much better than the first one, and here we are. But I think right now Hogwarts is the king until somebody else comes and takes that crown. Which will be Diablo 4, by the way. Diablo 4 will outsell everything this year. So just putting that out there.
All right. Well, no, once again, there's some irrefutable points, some points that are really hard to, essentially, get over or really have any argument against. So I do agree. There is an element of surprise that Hogwarts had. Like I said, there's really no frame. We didn't really have a good Harry Potter game. You know what I mean? So that does kind of give it this huge surprise. And like you said, there's a known quantity with the Star Wars stuff. Although I feel like this game is going to be special based on what I've seen. And I do get the accessibility thing, right? Like it's just easier to pick up and play a Harry, this particular Harry Potter game.
Jedi Fallen Order had some souls to it.
It definitely,
really did. I mean,
steep learning curve.
they had a lot of steep learning curve. They had a lot of options difficulty wise. And I wound up turning mine down. I was playing second to hardest, which I normally don't do. But of course, me being a Star Wars fan, I was like, oh God, I want to do this. I want to do this. And then I kept going back to it and then dropping off, going back. I was like, nah, I got to drop the difficulty down. And I had a much better second time around. Now, again, I still haven't finished the game or even come close to it. It's just one of those games that I keep dropping off of. But I think that might... again, people are going to have that in their head a little bit from the first one, and that's what might slow the sales down, versus Hogwarts. Again, I'm not saying that this is going to be, a small seller. This is going to be a large selling game. I'm just saying versus Hogwarts, I think that's where it loses at the end.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Once again, chat, let us know how you guys feel about this. Once again, Hogwarts Legacy or Star Wars Jedi Survivor. So either one. Once again, we're spitballing this. We're fantasy footballing this. So have fun with it, man. But it's such an intriguing topic. We kind of touched on this. I believe it was last week or so, and I'm super curious what you're thinking about this as well, Fuzz. Where are you at, man? Once again, on one hand, we have a known quantity with Star Wars, right? They've already made the argument that, most people kind of know what they're getting if you play Fallen Order. Hopefully people are getting a better souped up version of that is what I'm assuming most people want. And then you got Hogwarts Legacy, which is a brand new experience, kind of left field. It has that shock value where nobody knew it was as good as it's going to be. So everybody decided to rush out and pick it up. So that's a huge benefit as well. But where are you at on this, man?
Well, a couple of things. I'll start off with what I voted for. I voted for Hogwarts, but one key thing where Fallen Order kind of fell down somewhat was its fast travel or lack thereof. As far as fast travel, the map was probably its biggest Achilles heel, at least for me. The combat, even though I'm not a Souls guy, I enjoyed the combat. Maybe it was just the way I spec'd out the build early on that helped the playthrough, but I think this is going to be a very close battle as far as for the end of the year, and I don't know if either one of them win Game of the Year. Like this is going to be the year where there's going to be so many awesome games that we've received throughout the year that it's going to be like the process of elimination for game of the year. So I think the ultimate like check mark for these games on which one's going to be the bigger success. I mean, we could probably look at sales numbers, but I still think that's going to be a hard comparison. Like I still
Yeah.
think both of these games are in the 20 million sold category, possibly. I think it will be something where or not Fallen or Survivor will probably reach 20 million faster in the time period than Hogwarts, but Hogwarts had an unbelievable run within its first couple of weeks. So that's it's hard to measure that as far as a success comparison, but I think depending on which one wins Game of the Year or which one gets nominations, I think both of them get nominated, but I think that might be the ultimate determiner. But yeah,
This year they might both get snubbed, Fuzz.
That's a crazy prospect, and I was literally going to say that.
Yep.
I don't
literally, we've got like almost 6. If you count Resident Evil 4, if you say remakes, and we kind of had this discussion
Yeah.
last night, if you think that remakes can be included in Game of the Year with Resident Evil 4 and what it's scoring, then we potentially have 5 to, again, if it all plays out the way we think it will with Diablo and that kind of stuff, you could potentially get 5 to 6 already. And this is the first half. Like
By
that's
June.
stupid. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so yeah, the Hogwarts and Fallout or Survivor might be out.
We haven't even got Redfall reviews or anything.
Nope.
So
I don't think they could. If Keeley snubs Star Wars again, I think it's going to be Star Wars fans riot kind of thing. I don't think he can get away with it twice. But it is going to be a packed year. But I think the big thing is, does the controversy hinder Hogwarts when it comes to nominations? I don't think it will, or that it should. And then, like you said, the remakes aspect for this year. I mean, even Dead Space and Metroid, those two are
pretty much
candidates
tens across the board.
Yeah, so it's like it's almost the point where remakes. I kind of agree with you that remakes shouldn't be counted, and they should get their own category, and it should almost be like remade Game of the Year, or so, I don't know, but because there's already 3 good ones that have landed, or one in beta, and the other 2 have landed, kind of thing. But yeah, it's going to be a tough year. But I the only success rate that I will say that between the 2 will probably be easier to pick is that I think Fall or Survivor will have a faster to 20 million time span, but I don't know if I don't even think 20 million is where these games stop. I think they stop in the low to mid 20s before the year is out or within their 1 year anniversary type of thing. But like I said, I voted Hogwarts, but I do think Star Wars is going to give it a run for its money. You're saying Diablo 4 is another one that's up there.
Man.
I've yet to play it, so I'm actually looking forward to the open beta weekend on that one. And then, you got Starfield, Spider-Man 2, you got
Zelda.
I know there's
Zelda,
another major
Lord
one.
have mercy, Zelda.
Oh, the Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, Lord have
So
mercy.
it's like,
yeah.
This is going to be a ridiculous year for Game of the Year, but between these 2, it's a hard choice. But I think I did a coin flip with Hogwarts, and that's what I wound up picking.
Okay. Once again, there's no wrong choice here. You know what I mean? It's kind of cool to see, and like you said, there's a high chance. It's probably, and I'm gonna say this, it's probably more likely that neither one gets nominated at all than one of the 2 actually win. And that's crazy to say in a year where we're only about 3 months in already. Like that is insane to even consider at this particular point in time. Then we got other games. You're talking about Zelda, what's going to be massive. You're talking about sales. Zelda's going to be through the roof day one. You know what I mean? So that might end up being the highest, sales, most sold game this year. Who knows? You know what I mean? And you got Starfield. So once again, chat, let us know how you guys feel about this. Which one did you guys choose? Let us know in chat, man. But we're going to go ahead and start the meat of the actual podcast here, man, and kind of get into some of the other topics, man. So I wanted to kind of kick this off with a fun one. And I really haven't, I don't think, I know, Pong, you've brought this up, and I think you as well individually, Fuzz, have brought this up. But I feel like it's my turn to talk about some ABK stuff. and I kind of want to get into this to get it out the way a little bit. But I want to talk about the recent deal Microsoft just essentially signed another company up, a cloud company called Boosteroid, another 10-year deal essentially, which is going to benefit from the cloud side. So this is Xbox, Microsoft collecting those Infinity Stones, gathering up all of those companies, pretty much, doing everything that they needed to do and more. Being proactive, letting the FTC and all these guys know, hey, we're more than cooperating. Matter of fact, we're more than willing to have this game on as much stuff as we can possibly get it on. So I want to start with you, Asante. One, what do you think about this, the essential deal with Boosteroid? Two, I mean, it's just another feather in the cap, right? In regards to where this deal is going and where we think it's going to end up.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And I find it's super interesting because to me, it's just basically putting together everything that we see them doing already. It's the idea that PlayStation is not gaming, and for many people, PlayStation is gaming. PlayStation is Pampers. PlayStation, you know what I mean? It's the brand that defines the thing. But and because of that, the argument is being made that they can't be left out because they are gaming, and it seems that Microsoft is going, if you regulatory bodies are concerned about the people, then let's give you the people. Here's this company, here's that company. Yes, it's true, they may not be as big as the company you're talking about, but combine GeForce Now, and your cloud concerns, because that's the main driver here, right? You have GeForce Now, which is the biggest one in gaming other than themselves as far as Game Pass and cloud gaming is concerned, right? And if you look at like Amazon's Luna, it was a spark when it started, but now they've stopped investing in it. It's lost hundreds and hundreds of games. It used to be a contender, like serious contender. I played it and used it for about a month. It is top tier stuff, and now most of the games in there are nowhere near as good as Game Pass anymore, right? And they're still stuck in America, so the EU and the CMA really don't care about who's playing or not playing that service, right? So basically, to me, what it looks like basically Microsoft is saying, if you, the regulatory bodies, are really earnest and actually purport to care about the people, and here's the people, let us cobble together all these various services within your jurisdiction, Europe, Eastern Europe, what was the other one? Ubiquitous.
Yeah.
Let's cobble them all together and combine that with GeForce. And here we go. We have the same amount of people for you. We can give you that 150 million people, right? So at the end of the day, if you really do care, here they are for you. Then what are you going to say about it? Is it because that Sony or SIE is not on the document? That's why you have a problem, right? They're basically calling your bluff and saying, hey, you say you want to protect your people. I'm going to offer this to all of the people, right? It just may not be that specific one that had a problem before. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I mean, if you really pay attention to all of this stuff, it's kind of going their way because they haven't really made hay of it. And some news reports did it. And as I said at the beginning of this, at the beginning of the show, my partner in crime, Mr. Everborn Saga, drinks deep of said documents. So early on this week, there was rumor and speculation that the CMA had dropped the concern about consoles, right? And you can actually go to their website right now and go see it, that Microsoft has submitted their remedies. Right? The EC, I'm sorry. Yes, the EC.
No,
exactly.
No, that's okay.
Yes.
I didn't know if you found something else, KS.
Oh, no.
I was like, wait a
CMA.
minute.
It's the EC.
Okay.
Yeah, the EC.
Okay.
CMA is still pending, and it's still actually on the CMA side. They have posted a few responses from questions that have been asked that they've actually surveyed, and a bunch of their responses have been positive to, hey, let the deal go through, right? The EC specifically has taken the remedies of Microsoft, and the concerns listed there did not have anything to do with consoles. They've removed consoles from the equation. Now you can speculate, maybe it's because they've appeased the regulators to the point where they feel like it's not a problem. Maybe they heard Jim Ryan saying some dirty stuff that made them go, okay, never mind.
Saw those emails.
Maybe Miss Masservey, her point was made a little too clearly to the point where now they're looking at it with the side eye. Either way, the documents are in black and white, and they are only concerned about cloud, right? And then where do you see? You see Microsoft handing deals to every cloud. You get a cloud deal. We're all getting cloud deals. Have you heard? Asante Cloud is coming and it's got COD on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's everywhere at this point. And this is what they need to do, because that was the direct concern listed in black and white on the EC site. And it's the concern they brought forth, right? So
yeah,
Microsoft is just playing the game. They are giving them what they say they need, right? And realistically, this is not hurting them one iota, right? Because
not at all.
Most of these services, whether you know them or you don't, most of them are exactly like GeForce Now, where you have to own the content before you are allowed to play them on the services. Even the obscure ones that you don't recognize. I think Ubiquitous, I think it's what it is, Ubiquitous. That one does have a collection that this will be a part of, but it's such a small footprint that it's really not like pervasive at all, right? But all the other services and I forget the name of the other service. That one's literally like GeForce. So you're still going to have to end up buying it on Steam or buying it on the Microsoft Store before you get access to being able to play it on that service. So when at the end of the day, it's not like they are devaluing their brand or anything like that. You know what I mean? Long story short, you'll end up liking the game, buying DLC from them. So it's just getting more money in their pocket in the long run. And of course, as I do podcasts with the Everborn Saga, there's always a conspiracy theory in there. And the recent conspiracy is, well, not conspiracy, but hypothesis, which has a lot of credence to it. Most folks don't recognize Xandr as a purchase that Microsoft made recently and not too long ago. And Xandr is basically the tip of the spear when it comes to Web 3.0 marketing, right? Where they can literally put ads in games, put ads on Netflix, put ads in places that currently the big ad companies, being Facebook, Meta, Facebook, and Google, don't reach, right? Xandr literally puts ads in games, right? So if you own Xandr and you now have a game in Call of Duty that reaches and touches so many places, you want it to go far so you can serve ads there and make all the monies, right? So that's another theory that why they would never actually want to make it like exclusive, because the more eyeballs see your ads, the more money you can claim from them. And you have the company that does it, right? So all that speaks to me like they're setting up the deck chairs, they're playing that 4D chess, clouds everywhere. And to me, it seems that this is a very interesting turn what we're seeing, because I've heard some people say that, oh, well, this means that, Microsoft is going to win this and Sony's not going to get anything. Yes, they will. They'll still get the 10-year deal. They just may not get the great deal where they had some kind of skin in the game, or they had some kind of leverage to be able to ask for something beyond what they were able to get. If Microsoft and Sony stay in the current posture they are, it will be just like all these other companies. They will get what they get and they won't get upset. And that's just the way it will be. You know what I mean? But I think this is a perfect plan, and they're doing really well with it so far.
So I love the fact that you highlighted posture, because that's really where we're at this point with this deal, right? Whether or not it's anytime, it's going to close anytime sooner or later, posture is extremely important. And we do understand. I don't even talk about this. And I know Pong has highlighted this many times about the relationship between Sony and all these other companies. Now that they've gone through this parade, this song and dance, they've drugged this through the mud. A lot of people who stand to make a lot of money off this deal, are not happy with Sony, and this whole song and dance has been going on. There's a lot of people with a lot of money invested in this, and they want to see this get done. Besides that, there's just people from a gaming standpoint, big companies saying, hey, look, we never had an issue with this deal to begin with. So why are we doing all of this additional stuff? So I'm glad you highlighted posture, because like you said, they may get the deal and they probably will. I was never the one who thought that if this just went through and, we didn't have any more issues, that all of a sudden Xbox would say, you know what, Sony, you're not getting anything. I don't think it benefits Xbox to do that. They've always stayed part of the chorus, regardless of how we as fans feel. Because listen, if it was Pong, if it was Fuzz, if it was probably me, Sony, you're not getting anything. You probably don't even get an email from me. Like it just won't show up. Like, you know what I mean? Just because, that's why you can't let me. Everybody can't run a multi-billion-dollar business, because I'm too petty for that.
Bro,
I'm way too petty for that.
I say that all the time. don't look in your pocket and make decisions for Microsoft.
Yeah.
Because what they see in their pocket, you will never see. Well,
Never.
you hope to see a quarter of that throughout your lifetime. So they have thinking far, far, far beyond your own pettiness. And I would have been petty after all the ridiculousness that's happening right now. I'd be super petty.
Exactly.
But it doesn't serve them right. And to the point of people with concerns, even Nvidia didn't have concerns. They just wanted a seat at the table. They wanted the benefit to pay you, a publisher, to then be able to put that game on their own service. So the minute they saw Microsoft was the new boss, they thought, hey, the old boss didn't let us try it. Let's try the new boss. And cloud deals abound, right? Yep. It's ridiculous to think that this is going to go anywhere different than where we see it going at this point,
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to throw this over to Pong, because Pong, we've talked about this, and I highlighted a couple points that you've made. As soon as this deal was announced, you made a lot of great points, and you've been kind of backing those points up. That posturing one is really, 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 really important at this particular point in time. It wasn't as important 6 to 8 months ago, but it is now, because we've seen the strained relationship that, all the charades and song and dance that Sony has put, and caused this issue, caused this deal to slow down. Where are we at on that? Where are you at with this Boosteroid deal now, and just the overall deal?
This is everything that Microsoft and Xbox planned for at the end of the day. Obviously, they would have loved it to go through with no concessions. They would have loved it. Nobody brought any arguments to the table and just said, yeah, Microsoft, Xbox, go ahead, make this $70 billion deal. We're all cool with it. Don't worry about it. That would have been, picture perfect. That would have been, in sunshines and rainbows and unicorns, right, everywhere. That would have been fantastic. But that's not how this worked out, and I'm sure they expected it to be this way. Maybe not quite as vitriolic as it has been, with Sony. But I still think that they probably did assume that there was going to be a lot of dirt, a lot of nonsense thrown around. And so I think they're kind of prepared for this. And what they've done is they've lined up the CMA and the EC, which are the two most important ones, obviously. Again, we've talked about the FTC. They don't matter. The FTC is a slam dunk. They don't care. They'll take it to court. It's over with. They know that. Everybody else knows that. So at the end of the day, they're just worried about the EC and the CMA. And so they really got down with both of those regulatory bodies, educated them, been through the whole process, let Sony talk all their nonsense, and then turn around. And obviously they looked at Sony and said, you're crazy, here's why, and have laid it out time and time again to these regulatory bodies as to why what Sony's saying isn't true. And again, it's been all sides. Whenever you got a deal like this, there's going to be nonsense on all sides, and it has been. But I'm here for corp on corp violence, and so I love this. And what happened here with these smaller cloud companies that they're obviously cutting deals with, because people can say, well, who cares? This is stupid. Why is Microsoft doing this? Well, guess what? The CMA gave them a honey-do list. Okay. The CMA provided them this honey-do list. And once they got the EC narrowed in on the cloud market, this made this very simple. And we got this out of the paperwork. And this came from MLEX, according to IDAS. The list that the CMA gave Microsoft as far as what companies they were concerned about if this deal went through, and how it would obviously, possibly foreclose on other companies or prevent other companies from entering the cloud space. We had NVIDIA, GeForce. Well, we know what happened there, right? They got a deal. Facebook gaming. Well, we don't know where Meta is right now in all this, but we've seen Microsoft cut a deal with them for VR stuff. So I'm assuming, that's in there, and Meta just is going through its own problems. Google Stadia. Go ahead.
For the quick record there, Pong, Meta was one of the first companies to come out in favor of Microsoft in this deal.
They wrote it a big
thing, right?
Yes,
and at the time we were like, you might not be the best representative.
No.
Shut the hell up, please.
That's like Sony having Google in their corner, right? Through this whole thing. That's the mob boss getting up there and doing as a character witness for you. You don't want that. Like that's not a good thing. So then they had Google Stadia. We know where that is. PlayStation Now, okay. Nintendo Switch Online, okay. Nintendo got their deal, right? We're good. Then it gets a little bit more interesting. Amazon Luna's on there. So we got the big ones out of there, right? But the CMA also included companies like Shadow, Antstream Arcade, Utomic, Blacknut, GameStream, Wiz TV, and of course another one was on there, Boosteroid, which we now know has a deal. So they give them a honey-do list. And Microsoft took it to heart and said, okay, you guys are concerned with the cloud side of things. We're cool with this. That's fine. That makes it easy because you know what? Nobody knows where the cloud's going. We hope it's going to be gigantic, but right now nobody does. So guess what? The cloud probably isn't going to be viable replacement for hardware or anything like that for the foreseeable future. Our plans are 30 years down the road. We'll cut everybody 10-year deals. No big deal. So they started going down this list. That's why, we assume we're going to hear more. Brad Smith said there was going to be more deals to be announced as well. And actually the other big player on there, the Amazon Luna, I talked about this a little bit with Mav on the PM on Thursday, and we kind of went back and forth on this. I see a way forward where they actually cut a deal with Amazon too, for the near future, and I think that there is a mutually beneficial type agreement to be had between those two companies. Not that you're going to become best friends, not that you're going to become close. You're still, in a war over the cloud servers, right? We know that AWS and Azure, they're in a battle right now. But I think there's a mutually beneficial type of relationship because Amazon is taking their time entering the gaming space. They aren't jumping all in. They're not buying up everything. They've actually just moved into third-party publishing to kind of get their feet wet and learn more. I think this would be a perfect opportunity. And if that deal gets cut, my God, then you're talking about a game changer because that would catch everybody's attention right there. NVIDIA was a big one, but Amazon Luna would be even bigger. I would not be surprised to see that happen before this deal is all said and done. But I think they've got everybody lined up right where they want them. They've obviously, according to, we don't know. These are all human beings and they're all motivated in different ways on these regulatory bodies. So who knows? They could wake up one morning, have a bad day, and say, yeah, I was for this deal. Now I'm not. Guess what, Microsoft, Xbox, you get nothing. Because their Windows went through an update and it failed that morning. Who knows, right? These are still human beings, but it seems the tide has turned for the EC. Now, the CMA is a little bit more finicky, unpredictable, but I think that they are whittling the CMA down as well to get the focus on the cloud gaming, because obviously the CMA was one of the first ones to bring up cloud gaming as an important piece. And a lot of people scoffed and said, why are they focused on cloud gaming? It's an unknown right now. It's so small. Who knows? But if they can do that, that makes Microsoft and Xbox's job easy. And I think that's why you see these deals. It's twofold, one for the EC, and then obviously the other one for the CMA to walk into the CMA and say, we did what you asked. You gave us the honey-do list. We're working our way down these companies. As you can see, our actions meet and match the words that we've been talking. We don't care who we give a deal to for cloud. So go right ahead. Keep giving us lists. We'll keep going down the list and keep giving you more deals. So I think that's where they've got them lined up. And I think that this is swung favorably in Microsoft and Xbox's direction over the past 3 weeks or so. And I think that's what we're going to continue to see as they make more and more of these deals.
Awesome. And I want to throw this back to you, Asante, real quick here before we throw this over to you, Fuzz. And I want to highlight something Pong brought up. And Pong, I love the fact that you bring up certain particular points. And I want to highlight one point outside of just the relationship that Sony has with the industry at this particular point in time. And that is going to be, and once again, we're going to keep the focus on cloud gaming here because that's that's what the Boosteroid not acquisition, but the Boosteroid deal was as well. So, do you think that over time, has this always just been about Xbox positioning themselves or Microsoft positioning themselves in the cloud space? Because I feel like we have always undersold the cloud portion of this, but that ultimately might be the bigger piece of the pie to a company like Microsoft than the console side of stuff.
I do think that the cloud is the cloud is a little obscure right now, right? It's a little cloudy right now, if you will, right? They don't know where that will go. As Pong says, they don't know where that will go in X amount of years, right? And I will tell you, they are the second biggest cloud partners in basically in the space, but Amazon AWS dwarfs them. Dwarfs them by a large margin that cannot be undersaid, right? It really does. But in gaming, it seems, and I'm not sure why, it seems that Amazon has given up the push at least in their own cloud subscription. Because as I said, in recent months, like I've checked out Amazon Luna at the beginning, and it was a serious contender. If you go check it now, it's a shell of what it used to be. It's almost like they've given up. They don't care anymore about it, right? But at the end of the day, it is in Microsoft's interest to put as much to get cloud deals for as many of these as they possibly can. Because I was talking with Everborn about this today. When you walk into the room, right, Microsoft is who they are. And the number one thing that people will see and say about that is, oh, they own cloud, right? Because a lot Azure's name is big, even though Amazon is leading the roost. Amazon is right now the PlayStation Store. Amazon is Netflix. When Amazon goes down, the internet feels it. They are everywhere at this point, right? But Azure has really good name recognition, and it's part of Microsoft. And they've already started, nibbling on the edges with this whole, we're bringing games to the cloud. Now, if you want to be technical, it's not games in the cloud because they're literally putting Series X's in the cloud and all of that. But still, to the untrained eye, it is just cloud computing, right? So if they can do that, they have the ability to corner that market, which is the fear, right? So Microsoft being very good stewards, or at least a strategic perception here of them saying, look, we're here to be stewards of making this pie bigger, right? And even and this was Everborn's point, and I'm going to co-opt it here. Even the reason why the fact that a lot of these companies whose names you don't recognize, that should tell you how small the pie is. Right? It's not a big enough pie where there are many big heavy hitter players in it. Besides Amazon themselves and Luna, and most people haven't even tried Luna, right? And GeForce Now and Microsoft, that's it. That's the big ball game. There are a lot of little small ones on the edges. Sure, there are. But at the end of the day, this is the small pie, right? So really, if you think about it, this is not something that regulatory bodies should even be looking at, because it's not a market that, yes, you can think that, oh, Microsoft can potentially corner it. Sure, but the investment to get into it is so high that it only takes a company that size to be able to invest in it. And they've spent billions upon billions of dollars investing in it. They should have the right to benefit from it, right? But as we've all said, they are putting a strategic foot forward because they don't know how it'll look like in 10 years from now. They won't know. They don't know how it'll look like in the next generation. So in the short term, you want to pay me to then be able to put my game on your service, so then the customer can also pay me for DLC. Shoot, I will take that money, right? And when I do that, I will kill two birds with one stone and show regulators that I'm not trying to stop anybody else from shining. So it's a good move on their part, I think.
Yeah, extremely strategic.
You got to appreciate too, Asante. Sorry, PTK.
No, go ahead.
But just listen to Asante talk. It brought up something too. You got to appreciate the strategy that Microsoft is employing on multiple fronts right now, with AI and jumping into AI early.
Oh, this man's gonna speak my catnip. Let's go.
Listen. They are implementing. They've got the secret weapon, or what they believe to be the secret weapon, for multiple fronts, and that's AI. They are now introducing AI into their cloud structure. Which is, they are planning on helping businesses. They did it, obviously. The most visible one is obviously Bing, and we've already seen what that's done. Over 100 million daily users for Bing.
I mean, bro, anecdotally, my use case used to be you Bing it first because you want the Microsoft points, and then you go to you go to Google.
Right.
I have not been to Google in weeks, sir.
Nope. It's changing the game, and so I think that Microsoft walks into all of this, and again, we never, you can't, it's hard to forecast. That's why they have groups of people that get paid a lot of money to try to read crystal balls, but we don't see it always get right? We saw that with last Xbox One generation, TV, and all that kind of stuff, and DRM and all that kind of stuff, way ahead of the curve. But Microsoft right now has got to be feeling pretty good about themselves, as they seem to be catching the curve at the right time this time around. And they walk into these deals and these discussions with a whole lot of confidence, and they don't care about this little piddly stuff, what they think of as piddly stuff, about, harping over Call of Duty or cloud gaming, because long term, their crystal balls are saying that they've got the secret sauce, and they've got it at the right time. And it's not going to matter at the end of the day, come 10, 15, 20 years down the road. They're going to catch up to Amazon by using this advantage that they now believe that they have. And I just got to sit back and sometimes marvel when the strategy comes together. And we'll see how it all turns out. We don't know. But I just it's amazing to watch this right now.
It's crazy, and I love the fact that you highlighted. This is one of the few times they are traditionally Xbox is super early with the innovation stuff, right? When you talk about console, especially in the console space, you talk about Xbox Live, you talk about putting a putting an Ethernet port on a console. Like these things were super early, and there was no like market for it at the time. But like you said, every now and then they do catch one, and this feels like they're catching this at the right time. And it's crazy just how this whole ABK deal was evolved. Like it went from, I don't want to say panic, but there was it got real shaky for a while, and it looked like Sony was going to be able to mount a good case. Although people looking at it, if you zoomed out, taking that bird's eye view or whatever, they probably initially didn't have much of a case to begin with, but it felt like they were building up enough. They were using their brand to build up just enough case to slow this down quite a bit, and they've done that. But seems like those sticks have fallen at this point as well. So we're gonna throw this over to you, Fuzz. Oh, before we start, Fuzz, let me get this quick $5 super chat from Gerald. Shout out to Gerald as well too. He said yes. The panel's opinions, how damaging was Jim Ryan's quotes? True. We can't forget about that as well. Jimmy sticking his foot in his mouth, So, and who knows if we'll ever get to see those in black and white. But let's go ahead and throw this over to you, Fuzz. Where you at on this deal, man, with the Boostroid?
Well, I think this is, like I joked about it last night, this is one of those cases where Jim, fucked around and found out. I mean, now they're not worried about console as much. They're mainly focused on cloud. So he ran his mouth enough for them to realize what they were about and that they weren't interested in the deal, and that maybe that isn't the issue or the thing to focus on for this whole deal when it comes to consumers or the competition space in general. As far as deals are concerned, I'm hoping we hear something about Amazon, this week coming up. Like, it doesn't have to be the case, but like Pong was saying and like Kayasante was saying, I think if they do get a deal from Microsoft, like one of these 10-year deals that they're handing out to everybody, I think it will be I wouldn't say a nail in the coffin for any, counter arguments or anything like that, but it will definitely put a different spin on this whole deal where everybody's willing to move forward in the cloud, and anybody that's willing to just solely focus on consoles is going to kind of get left behind. And that's not to say that cloud is definitely the answer. It's just a matter of things are always fluid when it comes to changes. So this is one of those areas that Microsoft has been working towards. They're also working towards doing the whole mobile thing. It's kind of good to see that they're not focusing on making them sign deals just yet with like Apple or Google, because we know neither one of those they would pretty much be pulling a Sony at this point. But yeah, with cloud being the focus, these deals are a good option out there, and it's not like it's free. Customers still have to buy the product. They're still, going to get the sales from those, arrangements where the person is streaming their own product on that service, but they're also reaching regions that they may not have normally been, that strong in, like with the Ubrick, or I forget what the name of the company is, but with it being in the Ukraine,
Ubitus.
If it's an area that they haven't really,
I just looked it up. Ubitus is what it is.
Yeah. If they haven't really been selling that many games on like PC Game Pass or Xbox PC and so forth in that region, this gives them that opportunity for anybody that has that service. Now they will more than likely be picking up a couple of those games or signing up for the subscription service to be able to, stream it through their PC or whatever, options that service offers. So it's a win-win-win for everybody involved.
Yeah.
And the longer Sony holds out, I mean, I guess at this point they've already burned all bridges and have made their final plea, as well, not final plea, but their commitment that they're not interested in the deal, I guess it's just a matter of what will the news stories be afterwards when these things close, and it's like, oh yeah, the concessions are just in reference to the deals that were provided to the companies already, and cloud companies, and nothing additional, and then nothing on the books for Sony. And it's not like Microsoft is going to not give them Call of Duty. They're still going to want those numbers as far as sales, um, and whatnot. But it'd be pretty cool that if they don't have to have a concession or contract with PlayStation, then that makes it even more interesting for next gen, depending on how generations are moving forward. If they ever did want to do exclusive, or if they ever did want to do some of the things that they said that they wouldn't do, but didn't have to commit to on paper, like weapon skins or special maps. Like, I would be pretty interested in them doing like a Gears of War map or like a Halo map for some of the Call of Duty modes and things. But that's a whole nother story. They can figure all that stuff out after the ink is dry. But yeah, it's pretty cool to see these deals getting done. Hopefully, sometime in May, everything gets inked and dried and hands shook, and yeah, we can start seeing these games in Game Pass and moving forward from there.
Oh
All
yeah,
signs point to May 22nd.
Yeah.
Well, let's get it in, man. If that happens pre E3, I'm lit. I'm jumping out the window, man. You're gonna see me on Twitter talking crazy. I'm letting y'all know right now. I'm be on Twitter talking crazy. But I want to ask.
I'm gonna say one crazy thing.
Go ahead.
If it does wind up being before E3, I don't think we see a show from Sony until September. We'll see a couple of games at the Summer Games Fest, but I don't think we see a show from Sony until a couple of months later. Like, it's not that it's going to shake them up, but I think they won't really want to bother showing anything, because it's just going to get drowned out in the news stories of either the hit pieces on Microsoft, or the champion pieces on the value of Game Pass now, and Microsoft on the resurgence and stuff. So we'll see.
You think so, Fuzzy? Real quick.
I think that will slow PlayStation's need to want to show anything new, like, because
the reason why I asked that,
outshout that type of deal. Like, you saw how big it was for ZeniMax, and we're talking about a company that's almost 10 times the size, and
True.
all of the vitriol that some of these gaming media were out there about, oh well, Microsoft is this evil company and they're just going to make worse games and charge more money. And yeah, they're going to still try those hit pieces, but I don't think there'll be enough room or volume for Sony to really get or reach their customers, because their customers are going to be angry at these regulatory bodies and angry at Jim Ryan and calling for his head and saying we need new leadership. Sony's not going to have any real space to talk about what's on their up and coming list other than Spider-Man.
See, I asked that because I've heard people talk like, if and when this goes through, Sony will have another showcase of dreams to be like, nothing to see here. We're still the place to play. And because and the reason why I tend to lean on that's an interesting point is because for the past, how long has it been since we've seen a real showcase from them? Like high level, big, bombastic.
Think about
the thing they used to do,
Think about the last about 3 years or so. We haven't really gotten that. Yeah. Really, like, we haven't really gotten one of those, like you said, those real, we haven't gotten the flute. When the flute was the last time we got anything like that, right? So, and that was years ago. So yeah,
even Ragnarok came and did what it did, and it's great, but they didn't come to fanfare. They didn't tout it. They didn't put it on a stage, right? So the prevailing narrative is becoming, they're literally just putting chambers in the bullets in the chamber for the inevitability that this will befall them, and then they'll quickly be like, nothing to see here, we're still the spot, come check us out, kind of. Well, but it'll be interesting.
I've always been of the mind that Sony's just buying time. They didn't come out. People keep forgetting. They said they're making 10 to 12 different games as a service games. These games need time to get ready. If you look over the last 2 to 3 years, Sony's offerings overall have been fairly sparse outside of the God of Wars and Horizons, the games that got announced 4 or 5 years ago. So outside of those, the offerings, we don't get a bunch of announcements. We haven't gotten a bunch of shows. We get a lot of smaller stuff. I've always felt like since Game Pass, they've been trying to figure out their counter, that they're really just buying time, buying time, buying time. Like you said, just loading up bullets, putting them in the chamber until they have something that they can put together. So they have a larger slate of games. They can say, okay, now we got 8 to 10, 12 games that are ready within the next 12 to 24 months. So
I don't know, PTK. I don't know. I don't know, because you know what? They said it themselves. If this deal goes through, they might be loading up for cancellations, right? Because they can't afford to make games if Call of Duty's in Microsoft's hands, right? That they just can't produce games. So we might get a showcase about cancellations instead.
Oh,
Maybe
boy.
that's what they're thinking about.
Crazy.
Are we seeing Pong's? Are we seeing like King David and Pong Soul clothing? No,
Oh,
PS6?
listen. This is their own words, Asante. Like this is straight from the horse's mouth. I can't do anything about that. I'm just saying maybe that's why
Well,
they're not
you and I
showing
both know that you and I both know the horse is a
What are you
narrative
saying?
that a narrator you shouldn't possibly trust.
You're saying the
know?
horse is full of BS? Is that what you're saying, Asante?
Well,
I mean, he's embellishing just a little bit. No, but awesome topic. And once again, we'll see this thing. Hopefully we get to see this deal wrap up in the next month or two. It's kind of what we're all shooting for. All of us, you know what? It's funny how people act like we don't all want to see the end of the tunnel. Like I think we're all at this point. We're invested in this, but at this point in time, I think we're all kind of ready for this to be over so we can turn the page. But it's going to be an interesting day when we get that tweet that everything is official and that ink is dried. I'll tell you that. So I will definitely be marking that on my calendar when that happens for sure. But we're going to throw this over to you, Pong. You're going to take us into our next topic, brother.
Alrighty. Well, let's stay around Sony Town, and we'll get a little Xbox in here as well. And this is Speculation Town, folks. You guys know how much I love it, and we had a good topic come up this week due to the fact that one of my favorite journalists out there, Mr. Tom Henderson from Insider Gaming, who gets all the people up in their ivory towers upset when he leaks things all the time. So I love that man to death, and he's doing good work over there at Insider Gaming. But he came up this week and said that he got some sources that came to him with some information, and it sounds like it's more than just word of mouth, because he said he's going to talk about it more later. He just can't at this moment, but we'll see. He wrote up an article this week over at Insider Gaming that said exclusive PS5 Pro in development, could release late 2024. Read through this article. It's pretty short, real quick here. Insider Gaming sources have confirmed that the PS5 Pro is in development and could release with a tentative release date of late 2024. Insider Gaming previously reported that a new PlayStation 5 with a detachable disk drive is scheduled to release later this year. It's understood that this new model will phase out the current PlayStation 5 to cut down on production and shipping costs. In spite of the widespread reports, this is not the PS5 Pro model. This is just quote just the beginning of new hardware coming to PlayStation users this generation, end quote, said one source when talking about the detachable disk drive console. As for what the PS5 specs will entail, details are limited. However, recently published patent by PlayStation architect Mark Cerny suggests that Sony Interactive Entertainment is looking to accelerate ray tracing performance in video games. Just like with the PS4 to the PS4 Pro, we can generally guess pretty confidently that the PS5 Pro will have increased visuals, performance, and speeds. But as for the leaked details, we'll have to wait until a later date to release those. Insider Gaming understands that the next generation of PlayStation, the PS6, is unlikely to release until at least 2028. This would put the current generation console release schedule in line with its predecessors. Let's talk about this, guys. So, we've had this discussion before. Mid-gen refreshes. Do we need them? Is it worth it? Where are we at? But this generation has been extremely strange as well, right? Because it started, right at the beginnings of a worldwide pandy, and caused lots of problems. We had the chip shortage in there. We had devs working from home, forgetting how to make games seemingly, and we've had all this delays happen. So it's been a really weird generation. We started out even prior to all that, before everything kind of came to a head, and kind of asked ourselves, is this going to be the longest generation we've ever seen for video games? And I'm on record as saying that I thought it could go 10 years. We'll see how that turns out. But mid-gen refreshes themselves, this PS5 Pro supposed report, I want to ask you guys, because there's been a lot of debate about this topic, and people have different feelings on it. So I'm going to start with Kay Asante. Kay Asante, a couple questions to you, sir, about this. Number one, do you believe this is true? Number two, do you believe that we should have mid-gen refreshes, considering everything that's happened, considering that we still have cross-gen games for the large part? And then number three, do you think that Xbox follows suit? Do they have to follow suit if a PS5 Pro is announced? Please, sir.
Let's see. So, do I believe this is true? I believe this was true at some point, right? Because these things are planned far, far, far in advance, right? The culmination of the PS5 and the series consoles you see today were the brainchilds of many, 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 many years of work. They didn't just decide it one year and then the next year it came out. So you must prime the pump early in advance. Now, do we need it? Like you, I believe that this gen could last about 10 years, especially with a combination of COVID being what it was, and they are now at x86, right? And forgive me if I go a little tech heavy, but this is basically where I live. The fact that they are now x86 means you could see the Appleification of consoles, where they just iterate on any chance they get, right? And they know that they have so many acolytes in there who are ready to take the next one and claim it's the best one out there, that even iterative upgrades is still worth getting some money out of people, right? So do we need it? Me personally, I don't see us needing it, because seriously, the specifically on the PlayStation side, the luckiest thing that happened to them was Xbox not being prepared. That's the luckiest thing that happened to them, because if they were prepared, the delta between the two of them would be vast from jump and continue, right? Because as we see from gen on gen, and this is speaking console specifically, you see them, touch the tools in the beginning. Oh, it's interesting. And then towards the end, they are wizards and they're doing amazing things, right?
Yep.
But fortunately for Sony, Microsoft changed the entire development environment. They went to the GDE instead of sticking with the current environment they had, right? And of course, PlayStation smartly kept the exact same development environment, exact same tools, and bolted on PS5 features. So what you play is basically a PS4 Pro, right? So at the end of the day, if you knew how well PS4 worked and you've been working with PS4 for a long time, there's no change to your workflow. On the Xbox side, if you were working with them, you're basically reinventing the wheel in many cases. Now, in the long run, will that benefit them? Of course it will, because they've aligned the Xbox to the PC development cycle so closely that you're basically developing for PC and Xbox at the same time. There's no difference. But at the end of the day, there's still new profiles that need to be understood. There's still a lot of the tools that need to be really, really honed in on. Right.
Yep.
So, do I think that this is a thing that will happen anytime soon? It's a possibility. I would, if you had asked me maybe about a year ago, I would have said that there's just no way, because at that time, AMD was even having a hard time. TSMC and AMD were having a hard time just cranking out the PS5s. You couldn't see, in general. Now you can see them on shelves. I've been to stores; they are there. You can see them there, right?
Yep.
I think what's happening here is, they have been lucky that Microsoft was not ready for them. So the veil of this whole power narrative is BS. Yeah, that veil is slowly starting to lift, because let's be clear here. When they say they're focusing on ray tracing, it's because by and large they're using software ray tracing. right?
Yep.
They did not build in components for hardware that serves as their ray tracing resources. So it eats from their general resource pool whenever they do ray tracing in a game, right? But of course, because Microsoft did not like have their situations solidified, and they have a trusted and true and happen to also be the market leader where most gamers play games, right?
Yep.
It is in any third party's best interest to make sure you hone it well for PlayStation. There's a chance that they are getting to the end of their hardware capabilities as far as ray tracing specifically is concerned. Now, people say, "Oh, ray tracing is a marketing term." They've made it a marketing term, but it's a real thing, and it does really interesting things. I am playing Doom Eternal right now. Well, not at this very moment, but yeah, I've been playing Doom Eternal all week on my Steam Deck with ray tracing on, and it runs at 60 frames per second. You know what I'm saying? Like that little handheld can do it, right? Because that little handheld has Series S like ray tracing components from a hardware perspective. DirectX ray tracing built into it. Why? Because Microsoft insisted on that with their DirectX APIs. Okay, so at this point, while that veil is lifting, it may start becoming a thing that you really see that, hey, it really wasn't what you thought it was. Because as the gen matures, right, you will then start seeing folks getting a handle on these tools. You will then start seeing them using the resources to their fullest capability. Oh, and by the way, this other company has announced that they're buying ABK, which could change the power dynamic within the space. So now maybe third-party developers do have an incentive to spend time honing the console, right? Honing the Series S and X. And in that world where they use those actual the offset smart tools to offset it doesn't have enough memory, but we'll use the smart compression blocks. Oh, it doesn't run at 4K, but it doesn't need to because 1440p is a thing. When they start doing that, you will start seeing the discrepancy between the hardware really vast. It will start. It's at least 30%, if not more, in certain cases, right?
Right.
So before we get there, oh yeah, throw more memory at it. Maybe we'll add actual hardware ray tracing to the mix because we're all in x86 land. So whether a developer chooses to profile for it or not, if they don't profile for it, it'll play exactly as it played on the PS4 or the PS5. But if they do, hey, you can have access to far more capabilities than you did before. So on the PlayStation side, I think it's a shrewd move. If you hear the sound of my voice, please don't fall for it because that's a banana in the tailpipe, as Boomstick likes to use. Like, it's not worth your $500-$600 because if you want to get an actual incremental, like a boost, right? Even recently, and shout out to Fuzzy, he and I were having this Steam Deck conversation not too long ago. Even recently, the people who created Steam Deck said, if you want to see a big boost, right, you're going to have to wait a couple of years.
Right.
You're going to have to wait a couple of years for that boost to materialize. Does it mean AMD just doesn't have it in the tank? Yes, they do, but they don't want to sell it to you for $500 right now. If you want a big boost, you're paying $600, $700, $800, right?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that is where you live. If you want a device that will end up replacing your series, your PS5 as the new benchmark, the new standard, this is not going to be that. At most, you're going to get a bit more stability as far as frame rates, right? Yeah, you're going to get ray tracing more solid, but you're not getting the leaps and bounds that your $500-$600 will be worth it for you, right? But we know this is PlayStation. Shout out to the Mag. He says it all the time. He loves his PlayStation, does not like Sony too much. This is a very solidly square Sony move. We'll give you incremental updates, but we will convince you it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And that's what this will most likely be, right? Yep. Will Microsoft follow suit? I don't know. I like the same issue with Xbox with Sony as it is with Xbox, right? Yeah. They initially and I'm a bit of a tech head, so I follow these things. When the Xbox Series consoles were first announced and were starting to be features, Microsoft does this conference called Hot Chips, where they show you all the bells and whistles and get into deep tech details and show you all this. in that Hot Chips conference where you can actually see, go online, look up Hot Chips, you'll be able to get the huge PDF with all of the graphs. They said the reason why the 1X was advantageous for them is because DRAM prices were cheap as dirt during that time. So it was worth their while to incrementally upgrade. But their forecasting showed that DRAM prices were not getting cheaper. And I'm not talking about the end user hardware that you can buy super cheap now. I'm talking about mass producing at a high level that you can pay for millions of them as they do. Right. And I haven't checked to see, maybe COVID has changed that equation, because COVID has changed many equations, that's for sure. But if that has not changed, they don't have a need to upgrade, right? To give you a new version. The only problem is, where will they be in the marketplace? If they are in the marketplace where they're still behind and the Series S is still getting dogged and they're still not getting people to actually use the smart features they did to offset the memory problem, quote unquote problem, then they will have no choice but to increase it, because otherwise that narrative will lose the thread for them. I hope they don't fall for that. I hope they stay strong, and instead of, oh yeah, add more hardware to it to brute force this problem, I hope they then spend more time going to developers and saying, this is the Velocity Architecture's feature set. This is how we originally meant for you to offset the memory issues. This is how you can make Series S look great without being muddy. You're not building stronger, you're building smarter. And nobody does it right now because the Series X and the Series systems themselves aren't the market leader. So why bother spend time, working on a system, really, really making it shine when most of the players are on the other platform, right? So it's the platform change, or the dynamics of what this COD deal will bring and how many people will start paying attention to the Series consoles that will decide whether or not they feel the need to follow suit if Sony does this.
Gotcha. Great conversation, okay, it's not because I knew you'd bring it with the tech side of things, and that's what obviously that's a big part of it, because not all of us get to understand that stuff that way. So I appreciate that, sir, very much so. PTK,
yes, sir.
Listen, I'm the guy who didn't do the mid-gen refresh. I'm the guy who thinks it's, I'm against it overall, but I understand it more now, like Kay Asante said, with the x86 architecture, as we move closer and closer to PC, as we get to that point where they could go to a more, I always hate to say cell phone because it's not 1-for-1, because we're not going to be trading in our consoles every 1 to 2 years, but just on a more regular basis, updating this architecture as tech moves forward. But for you, PTK, when it comes down to hearing about a PS5 Pro, and then, would that in any way, shape, or form interest you at all, to have a PS5 Pro? Do you, again, same kind of line of questioning as I gave Kay Asante, do you think that Microsoft has to follow suit to keep the power narrative that Phil said they were never going to lose again? What do you think overall would be the benefits to this? Or, if you've got negatives, what do you think about this right now, PTK? Mid-gen refreshes overall.
So I'm obviously not as tapped in as Kay Asante with the text. So my vocabulary is extremely limited when it comes to this. But I do my best.
We're gonna normal people talk now,
right? I do my best in layman's terms,
not cyborg talk.
Asante,
Let's go
for sure. No, but yeah. So I one. It's so the first thing I want to highlight, isn't this odd for Sony though? Like, it's just the first thing that I think about when I saw this is this is just another notch in a belt, or just another notch in a string of a long line, this generation of a long line of things that none of us thought Sony would be doing, right? Moves that they've continuously made that none of us thought that they'd be doing. Sony has been so un-Sony like this generation. I have no idea what they're doing. And this is just another piece of evidence to prove that if this is actually true, and obviously we're all taking it with the grain of salt, we're in speculation town right now, but if there's even any grain to this being true, this is just another feather in the cap that this is not the old Sony that we once thought it was. Things are truly different. The way they do business, the way they are projecting themselves into the future is completely different. To me, it feels like a move to where it feels like a threatening move. Like, we don't really know where this market is going to go. because we got Game Pass. We're not really strong in that we're not really strong in that market. We don't really do the cloud thing. Game Pass came out of nowhere and smacked us in the face. We don't really have a great solution to that. Where is our play at? Where is our play? Okay, well, maybe we can do a mid-gen refresh. Is it necessary? I don't think it's necessary, because you brought up a great point. These consoles and the tech inside of them, on top of the tools that are made alongside the consoles, mature as time goes by. And you're playing beautiful looking games right now. Look at Diablo. We just saw some Atlas Fallen stuff. Like, the games are starting to look better, and these tools are getting better over time. Now, as far as how is this going to tip? Is this going to tip in the favor of Xbox, and should they follow suit? That the market determines that. And I love your answer, K. Asante, because the market dictates what happens. If Xbox feels like at that point in time, when that bridge is, when it's time to cross that bridge, if that's a lucrative move, if that's something that's going to push the brand forward, they will make the decision to do that. I do feel like Xbox has always been more forward thinking in the way that they built the Series X, and that shows in their tech. Now, for whatever reason, early on in the generation, developers don't seem to utilize all the tools that Xbox seems to give them. Those tools, they change and they mature over time, but for whatever reason, a lot of devs don't seem to take use of those tools. And as we go on, I think we're going to see more use of those tools. So DirectX is getting better, it's getting maturing. We just got UE5. A lot of people are switching over that. We're seeing a lot of UE5 stuff in the first party area, so that's going to get better as they start using that. So there's a whole lot of tech. And like you said, I love that you pointed this out too, K. Asante, is that as they absorb Activision Blizzard, they're not only getting IPs, they're not only getting franchises, they're also getting tech with that too. They're getting a bunch of tech, they're getting a bunch of engines, all of that's going to be in the stable. So I feel like they're in a better position than Sony is currently at this standpoint, because of the points that you highlighted, as far as Sony essentially, sat down and said, well, we already got the blueprint. Let's just build on top of that. We don't really need to do too much. We made the console pretty static outside being able to replace the memory and things like that. So the climate is going to determine where this is at. Now, I don't ever think Xbox needs to follow suit with Sony, especially in this case. So that's kind of where I'm at with it right now. I wish I had more information so I can make a better, give you a better breakdown.
It's fun. Yeah.
But ultimately, I don't think it's something that we need to worry about right now. If it happens, great. We'll see. I'm curious about the whole detached hard drive thing.
Yep.
Like how that's gonna work. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what is this gonna look like? Obviously, it's probably gonna be a smaller form factor because no hard drive. But like, how is the connectivity gonna work? Like, it's a lot of questions. But yeah, that's where I'm at with it at this point.
Great answer, PTK. I love it. Again, Speculation Town is what it is. You got to think outside the box, and that's great. I love the opinions. Fuzzy, kind of seeing, and PTK just brought it back around to that detachable disk drive, right? We've, if that's real, and again, there's a lot of smoke surrounding that. It sounds like that's definitely something we don't have to take with salt too much longer. We're going to hear about this sooner than later. But if they do go to this one SKU, right, that would put them in a prime position to do a pro. Again, it like PTK just said, to me, it's going to be kind of fascinating to watch how they do this, because normally a detachable disk drive has not been the best seller. It's been a tough sell. Let's put it that way, right? When people go in to buy their system, and they're, the salesperson has to say, no, this is digital only. And the person's like, well, but I want to play, I want to buy my Madden, and I want to buy my Call of Duty. And they're like, yeah, you can do that digitally. And they're like, no, I want to buy it by disc. Okay, well, then you got to come over here and we got to sell you this too, as a detachable disc drive. It just never has done well at retail. Yeah. It's had some success, but it's hard. So seeing this, they're obviously positioning themselves with one SKU for a lot of different reasons, all the stuff mentioned in the article. But from your point of view, Fuzzy, when it comes down to mid-gen refreshes, number one, obviously, do you think this is something Sony is going to move forward with? Due to the position, that they're in, they don't necessarily have to, but obviously their system, depending on who you talk to, isn't up to par necessarily internally with Xbox's Series X. And number two, do you think overall for yourself, would this entice you, or would you be waiting on Xbox to announce a Pro before you made your decision Obviously, you play a lot of Gran Turismo. If the PS5 Pro came out and said, "Hey, Fuzzy, by the way, now we've got on-track ray tracing on Gran Turismo, and it's going to maintain 60 frames," like, would that be enough for you, or would you wait on the series? Wait on Xbox to see if they were going to upgrade? What do you think here, Fuzz?
Well, there's a lot of moving parts on this one. So just focusing on the GT7 thing, I would much rather them offer it on PC than do a PS5 Pro. Like, I have a decent enough PC that if they offered it on PC, even if they offered a Pro, I'm going to have a better experience, or provided they don't tank the PC port, I'm going to have a better experience on PC. And that would, in the long term, probably save me more money just because of the hardware, because I'm considering upgrading to a direct drive wheel for my Logitech. And things along those lines. So for me, is it possible for Sony, or is it likely for Sony to do a PS5 Pro? I definitely think so, because, and this is no slight at any PlayStation customers or anything like that, but much like Apple, they know their customers are going to be willing to spend that money. If they've convinced their customers to spend an extra $10 for their games because of quality, they're going to be able to do the same with a PS5 Pro. And if they do a refresh as far as the Slim without the disc drive, I don't know. I get this weird feeling that Sony is going to make it so this discless PS5 Slim is going to be the same price as what the disc one was for the original launch, because they'll claim, cost and microeconomics or whatever, and it'll be $500 for this discless one, and it'll be $75 to $90 for the add-on disc, which the only reason why you'll spend that additional money, because discs or Blu-ray disc shouldn't cost that much, is because it'll come with some sort of game or something, one of their launch titles. It'll probably be like Sackboy or maybe Ratchet and Clank. So you'll be willing to spend the $75 to $90 for that disc. As far as the Pro, I see them trying to, and dare I say the word gouge, but I see them trying to get their customers for 600 plus on that system. And much like people still bought the PS3 when it was 600, although not in the numbers that they want. But I think a Pro model will be able to move in this economy at this time at that $600 price point. So I'm not looking forward to it, because it just means more money I'll likely wind up spending. But I think they will wind up doing this, and it'll be at the detriment of more costs. Now, will Xbox follow suit? I don't know, because we kind of talked about this yesterday. With all the SKUs they have, do they do an upgrade or a mid-gen refresh for the S and the X?
Right.
Like yes, I'm not CEO caliber or anything like that, but if I'm Xbox, and we're talking mid-gen refresh, the only thing I'm really thinking is a Series X without the disc drive, knocking that to 400 or lower if possible. Is a Pro needed, or a Series XX or whatever? I don't think it is, but it comes down to, like what Kay Asante was saying, it comes down to the devs taking the extra time with the tools that are out there now, and being able to squeeze all of the resources out of these boxes for us to see when we reach those hardware limits. And I don't think we've even really scratched the surface, to be honest.
No. Fuzzy, let me throw some slander into that mix for you real quick. I bet had the Xbox been the market leader, you would right now not be hearing anything about the Series S holding the gen back, because they would be the tip of the spear, and the Series S being the quote unquote lowest common denominator, and the devs would have a vested interest in making it work on the Series S, so that memory issue would not be an issue anymore. They would be using the tools to circumvent that. It's just the fact that they are not the market leader. So why do we have to deal with this box that doesn't have all the people on it? You know what I'm saying?
I don't want to play with the potato.
That's right. And to make even matters even more slanderous, I'll take one from Everborn Saga. He was convinced that there's no way they would release a PS VR2 that costs more than the console. Hey man, you release a Pro PS5, $600. Boom, it's
Yeah.
now back down to the price. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's part of Sony's MO. They're going to get those extra costs on these items out of their customer base. So I definitely see it on the horizon. Will it be in my house? I don't know. It comes down to what the extreme benefits are. Like if the toss up is Gran Turismo 7 comes to PC and they have a PS5 version that can do ray tracing on track, I'm probably going with the PC and skipping the Pro altogether because
Right.
I'm pretty sure my 3080 that's overclocked and my Ryzen 7 can probably do 60 in ray tracing on track. I'm pretty confident on that one. But I mean, it may not do it in 4K, but then I got a 1440 monitor and I
Right.
prefer the 1440 and turn all the bells and whistles up. So
Exactly.
I don't know. I definitely see this mid-gen refresh stuff stuff happening. I definitely see a pro in the future for the PlayStation brand. Xbox, I don't know. I think they'll do it.
Yeah.
But I think they're willing to eat some more cost than what PlayStation is willing. And they'll probably release it at the same $500 mark. So if you didn't pick up a Series X at this point, you'll be able to get the Series XX for the same price as what the X was at launch.
Yep.
And it will probably have incremental improvements as far as memory and hopefully all of the tools that are involved with the PS5 Pro will carry over to the fine tuning from the devs, third party that is, when it comes to the Series XX. But I think it really comes down to seeing what first party is going to do with titles like Redfall, with titles like Starfield, Forza Motorsport. I think once we see what first party can do with the hardware and push it to its limit, I think that's when we look back at third party and like, and I hate calling devs lazy, but it's like,
No.
that's exactly what people are going to say or look at them like when you see what first party can do with the same hardware that they're claiming they can only do 30 frames, or the same hardware that they can't quote unquote do ray tracing on. Like, remember all the people that said he couldn't do ray tracing on the Series S, but yet somehow Ubisoft figured out how to do it in Watch Dogs Legion at launch. I mean, it didn't look always the greatest because it always looked like it was raining, but outside of that, it's just one of those tough things. Like I kind of agree with Kayasanti. I don't think there's enough of an improvement available in the price range people are willing to pay, especially considering Sony's going to mark up that price anyway. And I don't know. I would say if there's no guarantees that are legitimately on these boxes for these consoles anyway. So unless they're saying something like, "Oh yeah, it's 8K ready," well, they said that with the PS5 already, but it's 8K ready and it'll do 8K 60 frames or 4K 120 and ray tracing all the time. And I don't know. I don't trust non-first party to push these boxes enough for it to be worth my extra $500 or $600 from either box. First party will probably do it, and I kind of agree with what Matt was saying yesterday with games like Starfield and Forza Horizon.
Yep.
That to me would make it worth the $500 because those are going to be games I'm going to spend hours on. But if I'm also the person that's playing a lot of Madden or a lot of, well, I can't say Call of Duty because that's going to be first party here soon. But if you're playing a Madden, is it really worth the upgrade at that point, or would it be just better to pick it up on PC? I don't know. I'm kind of torn. I'm sorry.
No, I think they're great points because that's the hard part for me. Like, this is the first generation where I've actually been thinking about, well, I need a computer eventually for content creation anyways, and it's the first time that I've actually seriously sat and thought about whether or not I'd move to PC at some point, because if the consoles are going to go to a constant refresh, again, I'm overall against it. But again, I come from the old school where we used to get generations, and for me, last generation, it was truly a generational leap because I never did that mid-gen refresh because I went from a 1080 TV up to a 4K OLED, right? So for me, it was a generational leap. But for many people who did the mid-gen refresh, people were like, well, it's not that big a deal. Yeah, there's some nice quality of life stuff here, like quick resume and that, and everything's faster, but really it's not that big a deal. But now, playing games in 60 frames, playing games in 120, right? And seeing the quality difference, I am more on board with thinking about a mid-gen refresh if it were to happen for games specifically like Starfield, like where I would be like, okay, yeah, no, I want to play this the best. But then I also do, like you just said, Fuzzy, even though I've never been a PC gamer, if I do wind up with a PC for content creation, I'm not going to get a cheap one. It's going to be a nice one that's going to last me, 5 years. So I'm going to be able to play those games already at that. So would I actually need a mid-gen refresh, or would I just become more of a PC player at that point? That's the big question for me right now. I think the companies need to be kind of forthcoming with this. If we are moving into that kind of model at this point, then I think they need to let the consumers know that that's what they can come to expect. We're going to put out a console, but you know what? In 3 to 5 years, we're going to have another console out that's going to be more powerful and it's going to be upgraded.
Pong, to your point, does Microsoft care if you choose between a PC and a console?
No, they
Microsoft
don't.
specifically
That's
don't care
that's a
at
great
all.
point.
They don't
That's a great
care
point.
at all. And I think that's
Yes.
why I think Xbox would follow suit if Sony did it. I think they would.
Because it's just another option for you.
It's just another option, and I think that they would limit it to a new Series X. I think the Series S would not get an upgrade outside of minimal, kind of slimmed down version, maybe a little bit of bump in the memory or something. But I don't think they would touch the Series S overall. I think they would do this at the point when they could lower that price point to $199 or even $149. And get it down into that magic range where anybody buying that system is automatically going to know what they're getting into, that it is not a $500 box or a $600 box or even a $400 box. You are buying in, and you're going to be able to play all the games, but you just know that you're going to be probably at 30 frames, some 60 frames here, and obviously the 120s are they've had more 120s than PS5 as of right now, but I'm talking down the road as we get later in the generation. And you may wind up streaming some games as well, right? I think that would be a fair to have 3 SKUs in that range with a high-end double X.
There are people with Xbox One VCRs that still enjoy Flight Simulator today because of that. So
correct, exactly. And I think that's going to get better and better. We know it is, right? So I just think that this is real. First of all, I think PlayStation is going to do this. I think that's why they're going to one SKU, and I think that they do see that they are going to run out of some of the steam towards the end of this generation, and I don't think they want to see that happen once Xbox has all these developers underneath their umbrella and they're really pushing the hardware with a lot of games from their first party. I think PlayStation is kind of scared of the difference coming down the road, so I think they are going to do this, and I do agree that they're going to charge you premium price for it at the end of the day. They really are. But that's Sony's going to Sony. And then I think Microsoft will follow suit 6 months to a year later after the PS5 Pro. I think we will see an upgraded Series X. So great thoughts, brothers. Thank you for the conversation. And PTK, back to you, sir.
Awesome. Great conversation. Shout out to, let me do some quick shout outs, man. I see you jumping in here, Mav. What's up, RSJ? What's up, Lewis? Back from dead, just jumped in here. OCD. Gogo, Bacon. Shout out to everybody still hanging out with us, watching live, man. Appreciate you guys. Once again, hit the link on your way in. Let everybody know the Shop Podcast is live. But we're gonna turn this over to you, Fuzzy. Where are we going this week, brother? I've already got messy for us, so you don't need to do that this week.
No, originally I was thinking about doing the PS5 Pro stuff, but Paul beat me to it.
Sorry, folks.
No worries. I have kind of like a 2-part weird one because I wanted to at least do like a moment of silence or a shout out for Lance Reddick, primarily because there's at least 3 games I've played, and I looked over IMDb. There's a couple other games that he was voice acting for as well, and with his recent passing, just wanted to, somebody that was a gamer and a voice actor in gaming. Like if you saw how many hours he had in Destiny, he put some of the people in the Twitter streets into shame as far as the amount of dedication to it. So just quick moment of silence if we could. Thank you for that, everyone. With voice actors, because we also had the same thing with the voice actor for Batman recently, and this is kind of like the weird part too that I'm going to get into. Considering there's a lot of chatter about AI now and AI voices, I wanted to ask you guys, not necessarily a philosophical question, but how do you guys feel when it comes to a beloved voice actor for a game or even movie or TV, if they were to pass during like filming or pass before a sequel that was already kind of in the works or something like that, how would you feel if we leaned more into AI if the actor or actress was willing or approved of this prior, um, to have them be able to live on in whatever future experience, whether it be movies, shows, or games? And I'll start with you, Kay Asante. As far as like, I know we do a lot of the back and forth with the chat, GPT and stuff like that, but for something that is more on the entertainment side, but a little of a touchy subject to some extent, would you be fine with um, not just voice actors moving in this direction where they may have a waiver, hey, for future sequels, if something should happen outside of, contract negotiations breaking down, but where I've passed or something like that, you would be able to use my likeness for, at least one more, sequel. Do you think that's something that, some of these gaming studios or even um, movie studios or things like that need to consider for future?
So great question, Fuzzy. Oh, such a good question. And first and foremost, I have to commend you on bringing that up. Like the loss of Lance Reddick really messed me up this week. I was stunned. Like the man was so young, so fit. I was just taken aback when I saw that. He looked so good. Black don't crack. You know how it goes. I was just so sad to see where he went. Now, I think it's a very interesting question because we've been talking about that. Like we talked about that as a community when Star Wars did their thing with Rogue One. We talk about that. I think like there was a Tupac concert that happened not too long ago. That stuff. It's a very testy kind of touchy subject, right? And everyone knows that I'm a technologist. I'm very much forward looking and all of that, but it has to be with their express permission, right? They need to understand that, hey, this is how it's going to be. You want to live on, maybe it'll continue to pay your estate and your family down the line or whatever, but they must have complete buy-in for it to even remotely feel somewhat okay. And even then, I'm just a little icky about the whole thing. You know what I mean? I saw a recent interview with another technologist, a really, really good futurist, Keanu Reeves of all people, when he was doing he was making the rounds for the new Matrix movie that came out. He was on board. He was like, hey, why haven't we done this? They're literally as they do, because that's what Hollywood does right now with the advent of motion capture. They're capturing all of your likeness. They're capturing who you are. They're capturing your essence, right? And then you combine that with all the stuff you put on social media, your mental mental dumps from time to time. They're capturing who you are in digital form at all times, right? Especially if you're a movie star, right? People who get paid for this kind of stuff. So it is something that we really should be contending with. And like, I'm excited to hear that there's an idea that ChatGPT AI will be powering like NPCs and things like that. But then you think about it, who will be their voices? Will they actually be actors, or will they be an amalgamation of multiple voices that they then don't have to pay any voice actors for it? You know what I mean? Like, it's a very, very slippery slope, very testy subject. What was it? Microsoft was part of this grandiose meeting of the minds of multiple companies that wanted to do ethical AI for a while, right? And Tesla and Elon Musk and all of them were very much a part of it, And then ChatGPT blew up, and Microsoft withdrew their support for it. They had like rules that they would follow, and the do's and don'ts of the road. And then as ChatGPT blew up, and Microsoft basically all but bought a controlling stake in the company, they went, nah, I think we won't do that. You know what I mean? So yeah, you don't want to stand like against us moving forward and technology moving forward. And I love the idea that Lance will live on, you know, in like Destiny 2, and he'll live on in these various mediums that he contributed to, you know. And I know not too many people are going to think of this game when they think of him, but the Horizon series, I loved him in the Horizon series. I put 300 hours into Forbidden West. I loved him in the Horizon series, right? And you won't be able to hear him anymore, and his iconic voice is gone. Like, most people don't remember, but the man was on Fringe, a very old TV show, but one of my favorite. I have all of it, like on DVD. I may have to break out the old physical media to go watch that again.
Yeah.
So the idea that, you know, they can live on, and they can resynthesize their voices and bring them to bear on these new projects and whatnot. It's an interesting concept and an interesting idea, but yeah, it still just feels maybe we're in horse and buggy times, and we're talking about spaceships in relation.
Yeah.
But for right now, it just feels a little gross. I don't know. It just feels a little
you
know?
Yeah, because it would be a bit morbid to be like, all right, in the contract signing process, it's like, well, here's this clause in case, you know, this happens, kind of thing. And it's like, but as you said, since we're, you know, actors and actresses are more prominent on social media, you'll see video, you'll hear their thoughts, or see their tweets or posts and so forth, and that's, you know, kind of out there in that company space, and can be, you know, brought back for, you know, whether it's deep fakes or something that might be like a memorial to some extent.
I just don't want like Universal to own the rights to his mind and body, you know, stuff like that, which tends to happen, you know. Now this company, because of business reasons, now this company owns the likeness to an individual. That's just so egregious. I don't know.
No, that would have to. I'm a firm believer that would have to stay with the family.
With the family,
estate. But yeah, love your thoughts on that. PTK, I know you play a lot of Destiny.
Oh man,
more than I do.
It hurt my heart, man. You saw my tweet.
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on like the beyond, as far as the immortalizing them in other forms of media? Like, I think he's also going to be in. I think he's in Wick 4 as well. So if there is a Wick 5, is his character still, you know, referenced and things like that? How do you? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first and foremost, thoughts and prayers go out to his family. We share the same last name, so you know, I don't know. I had the ancestry.com. We might be part of the same family tree. Who knows? But once again, like I said, thoughts and prayers are, you know, his family. He was a phenomenal actor. Like you said, as great as a voice actor, he was a gamer first and foremost. Not only did he, you know, star in these games as iconic characters, he also played these games. You know what I mean? He was a real gamer. He connected every day with a lot of people. So shout out to him and his family. But yeah, it's so I guess ethics, I think, is where my mind immediately went, right? So the first thought is, you know, you want to have respect for the family and their wishes ultimately. You know, what happens to this digital imprint of their family member, right? Like, because like you said, it is absolutely true. You know, based on the technology nowadays, we have everything is on YouTube. There's 50 trillion videos made a day on social media, you know, whether it be a video with your front facing camera or somebody else taking a video of you. You know, we have GPT that could, you know, essentially synthesize people's voices and do just about anything that you ask it. So the technology is there to essentially carry, you know, these people into, you know, other IPs and other games. At the end of the day, it just boils down to, you know, what does the family want to do? You know, what are the intentions? And like you guys said, I would never want a large studio or conglomerate owning someone's likeness and or name, voice, things like that. I feel that's a bit Minority Report. You know, we're not quite there yet. You know what I mean? So I don't know about that. But ultimately, I mean, it's a great question to ask because, like you said, you know, Destiny is we got more DLC coming. Their Destiny 2 is not done yet. You know, they have another large update. You know, the final shape that's coming up. Is Zavala part of that? What are we going to do? Are those lines already recorded? I assume maybe that's already done. You know, Bungie hasn't come out and said anything about that. But stuff like this happens, and how are you going to go forward, especially with these games that are made with like 10 years in mind? Destiny being this long games as a service that you're going to build on, the story is going to grow over time, and as you get DLC. So that question does come up, in a situation like this. It's just real sensitive. I do feel like ultimately, if the content's already recorded, or if they do get the clearance from the family, maybe we can find an ethical way to put that to use, because you don't know at that time. You don't really know if that person would be okay with that, right? Ultimately, we don't know if, like, maybe he was done, maybe that was it, maybe they weren't, maybe they weren't going to sign up to do this next one. Maybe they decided they wanted to go another direction. So that's where the waters get a little muddy. But the technology is there. That's the interesting part, right? Like, as technology gets, smarter, more efficient, we find, better ways to do things. Like, how far do we actually push it, right? That's going to be the question that gets bigger and bigger. How far do we like cross or get close to that line? You know what I mean? To where it's not like, okay, we're starting to get into like some weird Demolition Man territory here. Like, we're starting to get a little too far. So that's going to be ethics is going to be the main question. But I can definitely see this happening, depending on, and it only takes one person to sign a contract and say, hey, I want my digital imprint to also go forward as well if this project continues, like that can absolutely happen.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for your thoughts on that. Pong. Now, I'm not sure if you've played that much on Destiny. I know you played quite a bit more Division, but I'm pretty sure you've also played like Quantum Break. As well. I don't know if you played. Did you do Horizon Forbidden West or Zero Dawn?
Yes, I did. I did Zero Dawn. So, yep.
So, what are your thoughts as far as having a character's likeness continue on, if let's say they've already agreed to, or maybe the families agreed to something of that nature? What are your thoughts on continuing someone's digital likeness, I guess, in gaming or in other forms of media?
Yeah. Obviously, first of all, blessings to the Reddick family and obviously Godspeed, because it's, obviously, again, as KSI pointed out, so young. 60 nowadays is nothing. That's young, and a man who obviously took care of himself. You could see it. It's just sad to see that happen, and obviously, great tribute from the Destiny family. Everybody gathering together over there and doing it all online. So, as far as the digital likenesses go, it's a weird spot for me because I'm an old guy, older guy, and it is still strange to me to think about it. Like Asante said, it is still really weird. But we've had examples of this coming down the road for a long time. Bruce Lee, we just had, Bruce Lee's family has not had control of his likeness for a long time. They're finally putting their foot down. And as somebody who loves martial law in Tekken, right? Who is obvious.
They need to get them lawyers out about martial law for real.
Man.
You see law right now? Oh my God.
That's what I'm saying. KS, I thought it was weird though, because the family, started their kind of fight a couple years ago, right? And I thought that, and when we first saw Tekken 8, people were like, well, that's got to be forest law. That can't be martial because of Bruce Lee's family. And then all of a sudden I see the martial law, and again, is my favorite character because I love Bruce Lee, right? I love Bruce Lee. So I always was in love with martial law. To see him like same mannerisms, like straight up, like no changes. I'm like, wow, okay. Well, either they came to an agreement or they don't care. And we saw it with his son too, Brandon Lee, after when he died on set at the Crow, right? And they finished out the movie and they used what was back then extremely limited digital technology. We were just starting to see that really come into play in movies to finish out the movie and to make some of the scenes that he never got to shoot. Now, they were granted far away. They weren't, close-up shots or anything like that. They couldn't do that kind of stuff back then. But so we've seen this kind of come into play. So as an old guy, it feels kind of weird to me. I don't necessarily want to see my stars live on. Like when Harrison Ford, unfortunately passes away at some point, I don't want to see an Indiana Jones with Harrison Ford in it, digitized. I just don't. I think it kind of ruins some of the memories of it. But I'm also obviously a tech guy as far as I like new technology, even if I don't understand it. I like seeing where it's going. And I got to understand too that human beings, who they are, these studios are going to do this, whether we like it or not. People are going to use technology to create crazy things of people that have passed. And so I think it's important that actors, actresses, actors, singers, everybody starts thinking about this stuff and having contracts written and giving their family the rights. And now we know families don't always use the best judgment either at the end of the day. But I think that you do want some type of control, either to say, no, never use my likeness. Nobody has my right to my likeness, my voice, any of it ever again. Or, hey, I'll leave it up to my family or somebody I trust to make the decisions after I'm gone. Who gets to do this? Because we are going to get to that point where technology is so, we've already seen it, right? We're really seeing it now, but it's going to get to the point where we can't tell the difference. And we know that's going to happen. So I think they do have to take control over it. And if they are the ones who made the decision, then I'm about it, right? Then I'm not going to tell somebody that they can't say that down the road a studio could use their likeness again. No, that's for up to them to decide. But I think that right now they do have to think about it. It's a great question, Fuzzy, because we're getting to that point now of futuristic stuff where things that we never had to think about before are becoming a reality real quick. And this is one of those. So I'm for it as long as the person directly said that they are for it, right? That's up to them. Then I'm for it. But again, going outside of that, which people are still going to do, we know they are, right? We know that we're going to get to that point where they bring back, whoever, it doesn't matter who it is. We might see some stars from like the 20s and 30s come back, right? And that's going to get really weird. And I'm not going to be for that because they never had a right to say whether or not that happened to them because they never could have thought that we'd see this day, right? So that's where I stand with it. Great question, though, Fuzzy. A real thinker and a multifaceted kind of conversation with a lot of different moving parts to it. So thanks for that, man.
Well, thank you guys for all your thoughts and feedback on it. I mean, as the future keeps moving along, we got to start thinking outside the box as far as all kinds of different things. Like another thing I saw on Twitter earlier today, I think Jez was saying something about Microsoft don't be surprised if Microsoft starts doing like digital, trinkets or something along those lines. And I still wish that we could do the whole used or trade in games type of thing where you could take some of your library and associate that key with the blockchain. And if I want to leave it to my kids or, leave it to friends if I pass kind of thing, I should be able to do that. Because as it stands now, terms of service will make it so no one can log into your account and be able to access those games. And it's like, that's, a library, much like your collection of comic books or albums and stuff. And that's
can I
just
go on a
stuff.
mini rant? Just a little mini rant? Mini rant. When it comes to that blockchain stuff, please step away. Please.
Oh, yeah.
Step away. Right now, it is snake oil because, yes, there is a blockchain that then keeps your stuff authentically yours. I get that. Mm-hmm. But in order for this to work, what you're saying is that asset, whatever it may be, maybe it's a photo of somebody, or maybe it's an actual character in the game. Like there are games coming out where you have 1,000 characters and this one is yours and you can take it everywhere. Mm-hmm. Imagine a world where you're playing a Ubisoft game. Ubisoft turns off the servers and goes, yeah, you own that. You paid X amount of dollars for it. Where are you going to take that? That means Ubisoft must agree to work with other platforms to have the same protocols, same back-end stuff so that you can transfer that same asset to, I don't know, Nintendo or to PlayStation or to Microsoft. There is no world where they let you do that. In the world of remasters, they don't even want to let you play your old games because they want to sell you a remaster. They will gladly sell you this blockchain stuff, but then when the time comes for you to reuse it, the servers are off. What are you going to do with it? You can't put a square box in a round hole. You know what I'm saying? Like, true. They refuse to work with others. And as long as they don't work with the others, your asset will only live where they choose for it to live, and it won't be by your own right. And they won't tell you that because all they're trying to do is get money from you right now. That whole blockchain stuff is just like the pieces of the puzzle that would then make it work requires oversight from people beyond them to force them to make every playing field level, and there is no oversight on that. So right now they'll just sell it to you, and then later down the line when you really care, it'll be like, too late, you didn't read the fine print.
You know what I'm saying? That's usually how things work. It's like, as far as when it comes to oversight or regulations and things like that, it's like they're usually a decade or more behind the industry. So it's like, oh yeah, we're trying to regulate, let's say fuel costs, and it's like, yeah, they probably should have did that like 10 years ago, because now it's already past that time.
If there was some kind of NFT based regulatory consortium that makes sure that, okay, everyone's playing together on the same playing field, so if you ever decide to take your asset with you, you could then easily take it elsewhere. Oh yeah, that works, right? Because then the blockchain will keep your authenticity live. Hey, this is yours or no one else. And then the technology that's underlining it would allow you to slip it into wherever you happen to be. But you and I both know Nintendo and PlayStation and Ubisoft and all these companies will never share technology. They'll never share their base technology and give you access to that asset that you bought on Ubi. Hell no, they won't do that. Right? So until somebody forces them,
the pie for that same.
That's right. That's right. So until somebody forces them, this is all bridges they're selling you. Good luck with that. You know what I mean?
No, but awesome thoughts, guys. Thank you so much for your time on that thought piece. And I guess, do we have time for questions from the chat?
Yeah, we can take a couple. We can take a couple good questions. Chat, if you want to go ahead and drop a couple quick questions, we'll take about 2, and then we're gonna go ahead and wrap this thing up. I also, I guess this will be one of them. I did want to talk a little bit more about this Diablo 4 beta just quickly here. Just get everybody's opinions on just obviously the people that have played it, get their opinions on it, and just I know Pong, I know that devious laugh, right? That devious laugh.
I think I'm the only one here. PTK,
yeah, you might
get it fired up.
No, I haven't fired, bro. Okay. I'm download. I gotta download. But just in general though, because I mean, to be honest, I'm the newbie here out of all of us, out of all 4 of us here on the panel. I'm the new guy, to this particular type of game and genre, and I am so excited for this game. And since the first time I saw it, I've been excited for it as well. I obviously getting my toes wet now with Diablo 2 and 3, playing those a little bit. I'm gassed, and I don't, like I said, I haven't gotten into it yet, but the Game of the Year stuff is getting me super excited. Pong, I guess I don't know if you want to just elaborate on that, like where you just at this current point.
Yeah, I'll make it quick. Listen, first of all, I got to give some smoke to Blizzard. 2023, they do this with every one of their games. Their servers suck. They're one of the richest developers in the world. They've made some of the biggest games in the world. They're some of the most experienced devs out there. And yet every single time they do a beta or a game launch, they have issues with their servers, massive issues. We're not talking about small issues. We saw what happened with Overwatch. Overwatch was broke for a week? Like Overwatch 2, I mean. That's ridiculous. And they did the same thing here. Now, I will give them flowers for fixing it. It's been great today. Less than minute queues. Even if you got in a queue, it was less than a minute. No disconnects. Like, seriously, they did a lot of work. But honestly, they can't do this. And if this launches, this is a closed beta, right? This is a closed beta. This isn't even an open beta. Yeah, it's not even a full launch, right? So they need to be ready. I don't understand what the problem is, but whatever. Give them some smoke there. Otherwise, the game itself. Again, everything that people love about Diablo, and it's been 12, 13 years since the last Diablo. Now, they've updated it. They've kept supporting it the entire time. Again, the great things that Blizzard do. But this has been a long time coming, and a lot of people were worried and scared. And again, this is another one of those situations like Bethesda games, Todd Howard, A-Team games. People forget how big these games are until they launch because they're so few and far between. This is what Diablo is. So there's a lot riding on this, a lot of pressure on Blizzard, right, to come back from the Diablo 3 days and launch a new Diablo 4 that captures the heart of people like Diablo 2 did. And again, that was a small group of people that started loving Diablo 2, but it changed the entire industry when it came to action RPGs. What they've shown me and you get to play all of Act 1, right? So this is wide open. There are some things like mounts and stuff that we don't have access to. This is showing me that they listened intently, that the team that is there working on Diablo poured their blood, sweat, and tears into this game. The passion that you see in this game, this isn't just simply, oh, we're going to slap something on the screen, call it Diablo 4, and hope everybody likes it. No, they took what their job was seriously, and they want Diablo 4 back as considered the best, action RPG out there. As I said before, they even looked at other games like Path of Exile, which has garnered a lot of praise from PC gamers especially. It's out on console. I've played it a lot. I love it. But PC is where it made its bread and butter. They even went outside the box and looked at those games and said, hey, what do they do that we haven't done in the past that we could incorporate to make this even better experience? And they've done a fantastic job with that. The new skill tree system, and you don't get to see the full skill tree here because you don't get to open up Paragon or any of that. This looks phenomenal. What they've incorporated really has made an improvement. The game runs extremely smooth on console. Had zero issues performance-wise on consoles, no matter how many enemies on the screen. So this thing is optimized very well. This game plays like a dream. This is exactly what, not everybody, because I've seen some people be critical of it. There's always going to be that out there with a game as popular as Diablo. But for the most part, if you go look on Twitter, you go see people posting about it outside of the server issues and that stuff, which people are angry about, and rightly so. This game, everybody's saying, oh my God, they have done it. They have nailed it out of the park. I can't wait until June. And I'm in that boat. And that's why I'm serious when I said, you've got another Game of the Year contender here. I'm not saying it's going to win because we all know Starfield's going to win, right? So it's done. It's over. But this is going to be in that conversation at the end of the year as long as they nail the end game. And that's something we won't see until we actually get the full game in our hands, because that's where Diablo makes its money, is the end game stuff. How long can you keep playing it? People.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
What happened? Uh-oh.
He's
JR
been booted.
DualSense, yeah, JR DualSense got him. I don't know what happened. I'm sure he'll be back in here at some point.
It was the PS5 Pro Talk.
Yeah. is that
Jim was
what
making
it
the
was?
rounds around his neighborhood. It's like,
Blizzard
nope,
did not
we gotta
like
get him.
that. Blizzard didn't like the slander about
Oh, yeah.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, I don't oh, there he is. Okay, there he is. Let me get him back. Let me get that.
Yeah, see,
there
they
he
got
is.
me. Blizzard didn't like me saying Starfield was going to win.
Yeah, right.
See how that works? They got me. They sniped me. So, no, I just really think that they've done their homework. And again, they've poured themselves in this game. The details in this game are incredible. The details in the environment, the animations of the characters, how the characters look. I've never seen a better looking Diablo in my entire life, which is to be expected because of how old those games are. But at the end of the day, they didn't, again, skimp on any of that stuff. They really thought about it and put it down and made it all work together. The loot loop that you get in these action RPGs, which many of us are addicted to, is not always perfect. And there's times where you go, oh man, here we go again. I'm just grinding it out. In this game, you don't ever feel like you're grinding. In fact, you don't look at your clock ever when you're playing this game. That's when you know the magic's there. When you all of a sudden finally put the controller down and you look at the clock and you be like, what? It's been 4 hours? No way. It's been 4 hours? Yes, it's been 4 hours. That's when you know they've hit the mark. And that's exactly what Diablo 4 has been doing for me. Again, feel differently. Not every game's for everybody, but I'm just saying, from an old school Diablo fan, this is everything I wanted and then some. And I can't wait to get my hands on the full game. Seriously.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and take this last question from Luis, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap the show up. So shout out to Luis Jose. I know some other people had questions too. I do apologize for those, but let me go ahead and get to Luis' question. He said, do you think Xbox will have a convention week since they have ABK akin to like a Gamescom? And the second part of that was, and will they move on from E3? So anybody want to jump in on that?
I think they'll wind up doing a parallel show. Like, I don't think they'll completely snub E3. I think they'll continue to participate, just not be an actual part of the show. They'll be like the show across the street kind of thing, because they have all those, first party studios now with Microsoft Gaming. They'll probably be at I think it's the Microsoft Theater that's usually across the street from where they hold E3. So instead of you having one ticket for both events, you'll like for the general public, they'll have a ticket to get into E3, and then there'll be a ticket to get into the Xbox extravaganza that's across the street, kind of thing. I think they'll time it so it's not too overbearing to E3. I think they still respect what's going on with E3 and want to be in that conversation, but I think they want to have more floor space that they can control and not have to pay this hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars for square feet for a couple of days kind of thing. I think they want to have all the floor space that they can muster in their own theater and then figure out the expense or write off the expense, for tax purposes later kind of thing.
I agree. I agree with that. I agree with that. So unless somebody wants to jump in on that, we'll wrap things up. Anybody else wanted to dive in on that?
No, I'll just say I completely agree with Fuzzy's assessment. I'm actually been digging through it myself, and we are now making decisions on whether we will stick it out with what the ESA offers us, or we'll just focus on Xbox's Fan Fest and their extravaganza. They are part of the ESA, so they're always going to be there. They sit on the board, so they're always going to be kind of adjacent and try to and be mindful of what's going on there, but they're definitely putting a stake in their ground and saying, look, we're doing our own thing now, which, hey, you have so much content, you have so many developers, you have so much to show. I hope you can do it. And if you can, I'll be there for it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I do agree. I mean, it's necessary at this point, just from a logistics standpoint. When the say BK stuff closes up, you just have so much content. You do need a standalone event. So once again, this harpens back to what you were talking about, Asante, about it just the climate determines what moves happen next, right? What's going on at the time, the climate of the gaming industry. We're way bigger than we used to be. So therefore we need more space. We don't want to pay, E3, like you said, for the stage and the square footage. We have our own venue. We can put on our own show. We can put on a 2-hour long show if we wanted to with the amount of content that we're going to have. So it does make sense. And I don't think any of us would be surprised if that's the cadence for Xbox going forward. So I think we're going to wrap the show up on that note, man. It was a phenomenal show. Everybody in chat, you guys are freaking awesome. Every single week you guys come out hanging out with us. We have phenomenal guests on, and this week was not an exception. We'll start with our guest, Mr. K. Asante. Let everybody know where they can find you. But before you do that, thank you, sir. Once again, the bat signal went up. You came through as always, so I appreciate your consistency. But let everybody know where they can find you, brother.
Oh, I appreciate always getting a chance to chat with my brothers, and I really thank you guys for thinking of me. Anytime you send out the bat signal, like Michael Keaton, I will stand up and look for that sign, and I'll be there. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate you guys having me here. I will say, folks can find me on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, TKO Asante, Xbox, PlayStation, all those places you want to find me. Myself and the Everborn Saga host the Gaming Circle podcast on weekends. I will not actually plug that. I will instead plug the fact that me, Fuzzy Belvedere, and Slow-Mo Backslap and John Wolf, we had a year, after the year conversation, an annual conversation about the Steam Deck and it being a year old, what it has done, and how it whether it's good or bad in the gaming space. It was very, very interesting conversation. Recorded it earlier in the week, dropped it in the feed on Thursday. So if you haven't checked it out, definitely go do that. What most don't know, and every time I'm podcasting with him, I tell him he's a great technologist that has a lot of good takes. So I'm always proud and happy to be able to podcast with you, Fuzzy, and of course the man Pong Soul. You and I, we need to podcast more. It's just difficult with the way the timing works.
It is.
But I would love to do more podcasting with you, because specifically even on the tech side, you may not be into the speeds and feeds, but you think deep on these things, and I appreciate your takes. And of course, man, PTK, always family when we come in here. So thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. You guys know you guys already know what you need to do. Go follow that man. Go show support. Shout out to Everborn Saga as well. The other 50% of the gaming circle, sometimes 50%, right? Depending on the week and show.
Depending on if he's a prima donna, if he wants to show up or not.
Shout out to Everborn, though, man. Once again, show support for K. Asante, Gaming Circle, everything he has going on, man. All of that stuff is in the description. Appreciate you. It will not be the last time you see this gentleman, I promise. But thank you so much, man, for coming to hang out with us, man. So let me throw this over to you. Pong Harvey, man. Another week, man, in the books. Another great show in the books, man.
Yeah.
How we feeling?
Yeah, it was nice. I didn't have a show this morning. Like, it was really weird, right?
Yeah.
So, but you know, I get to come here. I get to have my Saturday night conversation with two of my favorite people, PTK and Fuzzy. And then on top of it, even though we didn't get Lord Attic tonight, which would have been fantastic, we got the one and only Kay Asante, who comes in with one of the best voices out here in podcasting, and just brings it every single time he's on a show, and it's always amazing. So what a great night again to be here, chat. You're all freaking amazing coming out and supporting everybody that does this. So thank you all for being here, and I hope you enjoyed the show. But you can find me Pong Soul on Xbox, Pong Soul on Twitter as always. I will be deep into Diablo here for the rest of the weekend, I think, with some Exo Primal thrown in as well because it's so much damn fun. Otherwise, on Tuesday, it's Xbox Factor Podcast, Double Barrel Gaming, Mr. Boomstick, Mr. 12K now.
Shout out to
sir.
Boom. Congrats,
Much
man.
deserved. Yes, much
Yes,
deserved
sir.
to him and
Yep.
Mrs. Boom. So that happens every Tuesday. He does it 5 days a week. But again, Tuesdays, I'm biased. I think it's the best show out there. Xbox Factor Podcast, all good things green, 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 o'clock Central. And then Thursdays, you know the drill, PM in the PM. Over on Fun Speculations channel, Pong and Mav in the PM. We are building a great community there as well. Having a great time every Thursday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock Central Time. Be there for that two-man show unless we have a guest, and we do have those on a regular basis. But otherwise, it's just me and Mav catching up on the week, catching up on news, having a good time with the chat. So be there every Thursday night. And then, of course, Friday nights, it's Xbox Ultimate back on Fun Speculations channel, 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central Time there, where we laugh a ton. We have a good time. But we talk a lot of gaming. So be there every Friday night. And then Saturday mornings. Again, this week we had off because shout out to my brother from another Steel Rain going and enjoying himself, him and his wife doing some motorcycling. So you know what? He's got other hobbies too. So I'm glad he took a day off. But we will be back next week, God willing, living split screen every Saturday morning where you get it live, raw, and uncut. 3+ hours. Normally it's just 4 now. But I'm not going to go there just in case we got something else going on. 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central Time, living split screen every Saturday morning. Right across the way from our brothers over at the Gaming Circle Podcast. Of course, Kay Asante, Neverborn. But we love each other. We don't fight, even though some people on Twitter like to try to start something between us. Anyways, we have a good time on living split screen every Saturday. Otherwise, it's the golden age of gaming, people. Get out there, play what you love what you play. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I'm going to talk to you all real soon.
Awesome. Shout out to you, Pong. Once again, go follow him. The easiest way to keep up with Pong, he's on many different places and it changes depending on the week. Go to Twitter, follow him there. It's going to be the easiest way to keep track of what he has going on. But shout out to you, Pong. Appreciate you being a battery of the show every single week, bringing that good energy, man. But last but not least, Pong, Lord have mercy, Fuzzy Belvedere.
Yes.
Yeah. Fuzz, man. Great show, man. Let everybody know where they can find you, brother.
Oh, just want to thank everybody for coming out and joining us. Thank you, Kay Asante, for coming out tonight and giving your thoughts on all the topics and everything. Always a pleasure having you on here and hearing your feedback on everything. And like I said, it's always fun being here with Pong and PTK. Another Saturday in the books. I know I'm probably biting one of Pong's lines here, but man, this is just one of those years where been busy gaming, getting lost in the middle of like early access games and demos, betas, and everything in between, and looking forward to some of the big releases later on this year. But man, awesome being here with you guys. As always, if anybody wants to hear my rambles, which I'm probably doing a bit of now, just follow me on Twitter at Fuzzy_Belvedere on Twitter, and also Fuzzy_Belvedere on YouTube. More than likely, we'll be doing some more videos for my excitement on the upcoming Forza. I know we don't have a release date, but there's just so much stuff to dive into between now and then. So I'll be talking about that, as well as the upcoming DLC for Forza Horizon Rally. So look forward to that as well. But thanks again, guys. Have an awesome weekend.
Awesome. And shout out to you folks for being here every single week as well, man. Bringing that smoothness to the shop every single week. And last but not least, your host here, PTK Blam. Catch me across the board, Xbox Live, PTK Blam, Twitter, namely. It's really going to find out what I got going on throughout the week, what's going on with the shop podcast, from the poll of the week all the way to the next guest that's going to be on the show. So hit me up there. Once again, if you want to support the show, you can always subscribe, hit the like button on the way out. If you want to support it even further, you can always join. For a small fee every month, you get some cool emojis, badges, things like that. So we got some new stuff coming. So I appreciate you guys' continued support. So same time, same place next week. Hope you guys enjoy your weekend. Go play some games, have fun. Overall, be safe. Peace out, everybody.
Later.